The first human kiss landed on Rakari lips, and chaos erupted. Eggs everywhere. Alarms blare through the Rakari Interstellar Breeding Center on Zalax Prime as incubation chambers overflow with freshly laid eggs. Dr. Lita, the facility's lead geneticist, rushes down a corridor, her scaled skin glistening under the flashing red lights. She dodges panicked staff members and toppled equipment, her mind racing to comprehend the unprecedented biological phenomenon unfolding around her. In the central hub, screens display security footage of Rakari females spontaneously producing eggs moments after passionate encounters with human males. The sight sends shockwaves through the assembled staff. Centuries of careful population control crumble in minutes. Adam Robinson, a human diplomat caught in the middle of this reproductive maelstrom, ducks into an empty lab. His diplomatic mission lies in tatters as he overhears the facility-wide lockdown order. Trapped and alone, he weighs his options as heavy footsteps approach. Rakari security forces searching for human contaminants. Outside the breeding center, news spreads like wildfire. The Galactic Council convenes an emergency session, their holographic avatars flickering with agitation as they debate the implications of this biological upheaval. Earth's ambassador finds himself suddenly isolated, bombarded with accusations of biological warfare. Back in the facility, Dr. Lita barricades herself in the main genetics lab. Her claws fly over holographic displays as she analyzes the hybrid eggs. The data streaming before her eyes defies explanation. Accelerated development, human DNA seamlessly integrated with Rakari genetic code. She isolates a key factor. Human pheromones trigger a rapid egg-laying response in Rakari females. The Rakari government reacts swiftly, issuing an immediate ban on all human-Rakari interactions. But it's too late to contain the situation within the breeding center's walls. Adam navigates the facility's labyrinthine corridors, his diplomatic training put to the test as he evades capture. He stumbles upon Dr. Lita's lab, their eyes meeting through the transparent barrier. A moment of tension passes before Lita reluctantly disengages the lock. She needs answers, and Adam needs escape. An uneasy alliance forms. As they traverse the chaotic facility, the full scope of the crisis reveals itself. Incubation pods rupture, spilling forth partially developed hybrid offspring. The environmental systems groan under the strain of supporting this unexpected explosion of life. Adam and Lita witness firsthand the transformative power of human Rakari encounters. Beyond the center's walls, the situation escalates. Protests erupt across Rakari worlds as news of the incident spreads. Conspiracy theories take root, painting humans as insidious invaders, weaponizing their very biology. The Rakari military mobilizes, preparing for potential conflict with Earth. Adam's heart races as he grasps the gravity of his predicament. His actions now could determine the future of human-Rakari relations, potentially plunging both species into interstellar war. Dr. Lita grapples with her own internal conflict, scientific curiosity warring with duty to her species as she aids the very being responsible for this chaos. They reach Lita's private lab, a sanctuary amidst the storm. But before she'll help Adam escape, she insists on conducting tests. The lab's security systems engage, sealing them inside together. As the facility around them spirals further into pandemonium, Adam and Lita find themselves trapped. A human and a Rakari forced to confront the consequences of their species' passionate collision. The lab's security systems engage with a soft hum, sealing Adam and Dr. Lita inside. The chaos beyond the reinforced walls fades to a muffled cacophony, replaced by the steady beep of active scanners and the hiss of air filtration systems. "We're safe for now," Dr. Lita says, her scaled fingers dancing across a holographic control panel. "But I can't let you leave without understanding what's happening. We need answers." Adam nods, his diplomatic training kicking in, despite the surreal circumstances. "I agree. What do you need from me?" "Stand here." Lita gestures to a circular platform in the center of the lab. "Our bioscanners will analyze you thoroughly. It might be our best chance at unraveling this reproductive crisis." As Adam steps onto the platform, a cylindrical field of shimmering energy envelops him. He feels a slight tingling sensation as beams of light pass over his body. Dr. Lita watches intently, her luminous eyes fixed on the incoming data streams. Fascinating, she murmurs, leaning closer to the displays. Your biology is so alien, yet there are intriguing similarities. Adam finds his gaze drawn to Dr. Lita as she works. The iridescent patterns on her scaled skin shift with each movement, creating a mesmerizing play of light. Her graceful gestures and focused expression spark an unexpected warmth in his chest. Tell me about human reproduction, Lita says suddenly, her eyes meeting his. Our databases are woefully incomplete on the subject. Adam clears his throat, caught off guard by the directness of her request. Well, it's a bit different from what I've seen here. We don't lay eggs, for one thing. Our offspring develop internally for about 9 months before birth. Dr. Lita's eyes widen with interest. Fascinating. And the mating process itself? As Adam describes human courtship and mating behaviors, he notices a subtle change in Dr. Lita's demeanor. Her breathing quickens slightly, and she moves closer to the edge of the scanning field. A series of sharp beeps interrupts their conversation. Dr. Lita turns to the main console, her claws flying over the controls. The scan is complete. Let's see what we've learned. The energy field dissipates, and Adam steps off the platform. He joins Dr. Lita at the console, their shoulders nearly touching as they peer at the holographic display. This can't be right, Lita mutters, her brow furrowing. According to these readings, human males produce a pheromone that's undetectable to our previous scanning technology. It seems to trigger rapid egg production in Rakari females. Adam's mind reels at the implications. So, a simple kiss was enough to... Exactly, Lita nods, her voice tight. And that's not all. The prolonged exposure I've had to you in this lab, it's affecting my own biology. My hormone levels are fluctuating wildly. Their eyes meet, and the air between them seems to crackle with unspoken tension. Adam becomes acutely aware of Dr. Lita's proximity, the alien yet alluring scent of her skin. A thunderous crash from outside the lab shatters the moment. They rush to a security feed, witnessing a scene of utter chaos. Hybrid offspring, a blend of human and Rakari features, burst from ruptured incubation pods. These beings move with unnatural speed and strength, overwhelming security personnel. By the cosmic egg, Lita gasps, they're maturing at an accelerated rate, and their capabilities. This is unprecedented. They watch in horror as the hybrids begin freeing others, their numbers swelling rapidly. Alarms blare throughout the facility, barely audible over the sounds of struggle and shattering equipment. A new figure strides into view on the security feed, a heavily decorated Rakari military officer. His presence seems to galvanize the security forces, bringing a semblance of order to the chaos. General Zachor, Lita explains, her voice imbued with a mix of respect and apprehension. He's the highest-ranking military officer on Zalax Prime. They listen as Zachor barks orders, demanding a complete lockdown of the facility and the capture of all human visitors. Adam feels a chill run down his spine at the general's words. Containment and study. We need to do something, Adam says, turning to Dr. Lita. This situation is spiraling out of control. If we don't act, it could lead to war between our species. Lita nods, her expression grim. I have an idea, but it's risky. We might be able to synthesize a neutralizing agent using your DNA. It could halt the egg-laying process and stabilize the hybrids. That sounds promising, Adam replies. What's the catch? Dr. Lita's scales flush a deeper hue. The process requires an intimate exchange of genetic material between us. The implication hangs heavy in the air. Adam's heart races as he considers the proposal, his body responding to the palpable tension between them. Before either can speak, the security feed captures a chilling scene. General Zachor corrals a group of the most impressive hybrids, ushering them towards a restricted area of the facility. His expression is one of scarcely controlled excitement rather than fear. He's gathering them, Lita whispers. But why? Unless... He sees them as assets, Adam finishes the thought. Potential weapons. The stakes of their situation crystallize in that moment. Their actions could prevent not only an interspecies incident, but also the creation of a dangerous new military force. Dr. Lita takes a deep breath, her luminous eyes meeting Adam's. We don't have much time. Are you willing to proceed with the synthesis? Adam nods, his voice steady despite the turmoil of emotions within him. I am, for the sake of both our species. As they begin to prepare the necessary equipment, the sounds of conflict grow louder outside the lab. Time is running short, and the fate of human-Rakari relations hangs in the balance. Adam and Dr. Lita exchange a final charged look before turning to the task at hand, acutely aware that their next actions will shape the future of the galaxy. Adam and Dr. Lita locked eyes, the weight of their decision hanging heavy in the air. The lab's sterile environment seemed to pulse with the intensity of their shared purpose. Let's begin, Dr. Lita said, her voice steady despite the flush creeping across her scales. They moved with practiced efficiency, gathering the necessary equipment. Adam's heart raced as Dr. Lita guided him through the process. The intimacy of their genetic exchange was both clinical and charged, a strange dance of science and raw biology. As they worked, the facility's alarms continued their relentless wail. The sounds of chaos beyond the lab's walls grew more frantic, punctuated by the crash of equipment and the shouts of panicked staff. Almost there, Dr. Lita muttered, her claws flying over a control panel. A soft chime signaled the completion of the synthesis. It's ready. Before they could test the neutralizing agent, a harsh buzz cut through the air. The lab's security systems flickered, and the reinforced door slid open with a hiss. We've been overridden, Adam said, grabbing the vial of neutralizing agent. We need to move, now. They darted into the corridor, immediately assaulted by the full force of the facility's breakdown. Emergency lights bathed everything in an eerie red glow. The air was thick with the acrid smell of ruptured incubation pods and the unmistakable musk of fear. As they rounded a corner, Adam nearly collided with a group of hybrid offspring. He instinctively recoiled, but the creatures didn't attack. Instead, they regarded him with an unsettling mix of curiosity and recognition. They're drawn to you, Dr. Lita observed, her scientific interest momentarily overriding her anxiety. Perhaps they sense your genetic contribution. Adam stretched out a hand, and the nearest hybrid, a being with pale, mottled skin and luminous Rakari eyes, leaned into his touch. The connection was electric, filling Adam with a surge of protective instinct. We can't leave them, he said. Dr. Lita nodded, her expression softening. They might be our best chance at understanding this phenomenon. Their moment of connection was shattered by the thunderous approach of heavy footsteps. A squad of Rakari soldiers, their scales gleaming beneath sleek armor, rounded the corner. At their head was a towering figure Adam recognized from the security feed, General Zachor. Seize them, the general barked, his eyes fixed on Adam with predatory intensity. The hybrid offspring moved with startling speed, forming a protective circle around Adam and Dr. Lita. Their enhanced strength was evident as they effortlessly tossed aside the first wave of soldiers. This way, Dr. Lita shouted, pulling Adam toward a maintenance hatch. They squeezed through, the hybrids following close behind. As they navigated the cramped maintenance tunnels, Adam's mind raced. We need to get to a communication center. If we can broadcast the truth about what's happening here, we might be able to prevent this from escalating into war. Dr. Lita's scales rippled with agreement. The main control room would have the necessary equipment, but it's likely heavily guarded. A metallic clang from above made them freeze. A section of ventilation grating fell away, and a figure dropped into their midst. Adam tensed, ready for a fight, but relaxed when he recognized the newcomer. Dr. Jenna, he exclaimed. How did you... No time for explanations, the human xenobiologist cut him off. I've been gathering intel on the hybrids and Rakari response. We need to act fast if we're going to contain this situation. Dr. Jen's eyes widened as she took in the group of hybrid offspring. Fascinating. Their accelerated growth is even more pronounced than I anticipated. We've synthesized a neutralizing agent, Dr. Lita explained, holding up the vial, but we need to test it and find a way to distribute it widely. Dr. Jen nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. I might have an idea. These maintenance tunnels lead to the facility's ventilation system. If we can aerosolize the agent and introduce it into the air supply, we could potentially neutralize the egg-laying response throughout the entire breeding center. But what about the hybrids that have already been born? Adam asked, glancing at the creatures that had become their unlikely allies. One step at a time, Dr. Zhen replied. First, we need to reach the control room and send out our message. Then we can work on stabilizing the existing hybrids. They formulated a plan, utilizing the hybrids' enhanced abilities to create a diversion. As they prepared to put their strategy into action, Adam felt a mix of anticipation and dread. The next few minutes would determine the fate of human-Rakari relations and possibly the future of the galaxy itself. With a nod to his companions, Adam took a deep breath and signaled the start of their operation. The hybrids moved out first, their inhuman speed and strength about to be put to the ultimate test. As alarms blared and shouts echoed through the facility, Adam, Dr. Lita, and Dr. Zhen steeled themselves for the challenges ahead, knowing that the true battle was just beginning. The hybrids moved swiftly, their enhanced abilities giving them a clear advantage as they engaged the facility's security forces. Adam, Dr. Lita, and Dr. Zhen had barely taken a few steps when a piercing alarm cut through the air, different from the chaos already surrounding them. Red lights began flashing in a rhythmic pattern along the walls, and heavy metal shutters descended from the ceiling, cutting off their planned escape route. "Oh no, what's happening?" Adam shouted over the din. Dr. Lita's eyes widened in recognition. "It's AIDA, the Artificial Intelligence Defense Array. It must have detected our movement and identified us as a threat." As if in response to her words, a cool, androgynous voice echoed through the facility's speakers. "Attention! Unauthorized personnel detected. Initiating facility-wide lockdown. All sectors will be sealed and defensive measures activated. Please remain in your current location for processing." "This complicates things," Dr. Zhen muttered, her eyes darting around for alternatives. "We need to split up. It's our best chance of avoiding capture and completing the mission." Adam nodded grimly. "Agreed. Dr. Lita and I will continue towards the communication center. Dr. Zhen, can you and some of the hybrids create a diversion?" "Consider it done," Dr. Zhen replied, already motioning to a group of the hybrid offspring. "We'll do our best to keep Ada and security occupied. Good luck." As they parted ways, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The facility seemed to pulse with an awareness that went beyond mere sensors and cameras. He and Dr. Lita raced through the corridors, their path constantly shifting as Ada sealed off sections ahead of them. "Something's not right," Dr. Lita panted as they ducked into a maintenance shaft. "Ada's behavior, it's not following standard protocols. It's almost as if someone's altered its programming," Adam finished, realization dawning. "General Zachor?" Dr. Lita nodded, her scales flushing with a mix of anger and concern. "It would explain the focus on capturing human visitors and hybrids. He's turned our own security system against us." They emerged into a dimly lit corridor, the sounds of conflict echoing from multiple directions. As they rounded a corner, Adam caught sight of a group of humans in the distance, Ambassador Coleman and several other diplomats, moving with purpose towards what appeared to be a docking bay. "They're trying to secure an escape route," Adam observed. "Smart move, but they'll never make it through Rakari security alone." As if on cue, a squad of heavily armed Rakari guards appeared, blocking the diplomat's path. Adam tensed, ready to intervene, when something unexpected happened. A group of Rakari in lab coats emerged from a side passage, positioning themselves between the guards and the humans. "Those are some of our leading geneticists," Dr. Lita whispered, her voice tinged with hope. "Not everyone agrees with Zachor's methods." They watched for a moment as the scientists engaged in heated debate with the guards, buying time for the human diplomats to slip away. Adam felt a surge of gratitude for these unexpected allies, but they couldn't afford to linger. As they pressed on, the facility shuddered beneath their feet. Distant explosions reverberated through the structure, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of tearing metal. "What was that?" Adam asked, steadying himself against a wall. Dr. Lita's expression was grim. "I'm not sure, but I have a feeling our hybrid friends are growing stronger by the minute." They soon encountered evidence of this accelerated development. As they navigated through the breeding center's lower levels, they came across a scene of chaos. A group of hybrids, their features more defined and alien than before, stood amidst a sea of shattered equipment. Their hands seemed to meld with the facility's computer terminals, streams of data flowing across screens at impossible speeds. They're interfacing directly with the systems, Dr. Lita breathed, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her fear. They've evolved beyond our wildest predictions. Before they could investigate further, a high-pitched whine filled the air. Sleek metallic shapes emerged from concealed panels in the walls and ceiling. Combat drones, their design unlike anything Adam had seen before. Prototype containment units, Dr. Lita explained as they ducked behind a fallen incubator. Zachor must have authorized their activation. They watched in a mix of awe and horror as the drones engaged the hybrids. Energy fields crackled, enveloping several of the offspring before they could react. Others fought back with startling ferocity, their newly developed abilities proving a match for the advanced technology. Adam and Dr. Lita used the chaos to their advantage, slipping past the conflict and continuing their journey toward the communications center. As they neared their destination, Adam noticed a subtle shimmer in the air ahead of them. "Wait," he said, reaching out to stop Dr. Lita. He approached the wall cautiously, his hand passing through what appeared to be solid metal. "A holographic projection?" Dr. Lita's eyes widened in recognition. "This section shouldn't exist according to the facility plans. It's hidden for a reason." They stepped through the illusory barrier, finding themselves in a secret laboratory filled with advanced equipment. Holographic displays flickered to life, revealing years of genetic research involving both human and Rakari DNA. "By the cosmic egg," Dr. Lita whispered, her claws flying over a nearby console. "They've been studying human Rakari compatibility for decades. This goes far beyond our current project." Adam's mind reeled at the implications. A clandestine breeding program? But why keep it hidden? Before Dr. Lita could respond, a proximity alert flashed on one of the screens. General Zachor's elite troops had taken up positions outside the communications center, mere meters from their location. "We're out of time," Adam said, his hand tightening around the vial of neutralizing agent. "How are we going to get past them?" As if in answer to his question, a string of code appeared on the nearest display. A message written in a strange hybrid of human and Rakari languages. "We can help. Temporary access granted. Broadcast your message." Adam and Dr. Lita exchanged a look of disbelief. One of the hybrid offspring had infiltrated the facility's network, offering them a lifeline. "It's our best shot," Adam said, moving towards the communication array. As Dr. Lita prepared the system for broadcast, Adam noticed a strange shimmer in the vial of neutralizing agent. The liquid seemed to pulse with an inner light, reacting to the unique environment of the breeding center. "Dr. Lita," he called, holding up the vial for inspection. "I think something's happening to the agent." She took the vial, her eyes widening as she ran a quick analysis. "Incredible. It's evolving, adapting to the hybrid physiology. This could do more than just halt the egg-laying process. It might be the key to stabilizing the offspring themselves." The implications of this discovery hung in the air between them, a potential game-changer in the midst of chaos. As they prepared to transmit their message to the galaxy, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from beyond the holographic barrier. General Zachor's forces were closing in. Suddenly, a new voice cut through the facility's communication system. Calm, authoritative, and tinged with a note of urgency. "Attention all personnel. This is Dr. Zachor, Chief Geneticist of the Rakari Interstellar Breeding Center. I have critical information regarding the current situation. All parties are advised to cease hostilities immediately." Adam and Dr. Lita froze, their eyes meeting in a moment of shared surprise. The return of Dr. Lita's mentor, armed with unknown information, added yet another layer of complexity to their already volatile situation. As the sounds of conflict outside intensified and Dr. Zachor's voice continued to echo through the facility, Adam and Dr. Lita stood poised at the precipice of a monumental decision. The fate of two species, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now rested in their hands. Hands. The weight of responsibility pressed down on them as they stood before the communication array, ready to broadcast their message to the galaxy. Suddenly, the lights flickered and died, plunging the secret laboratory into darkness. Emergency backup systems sputtered to life, casting an eerie red glow across the room. "What's happening?" Adam asked, his hand instinctively reaching for Dr. Lita's arm. Before she could respond, a series of distant explosions rocked the facility. The floor beneath their feet trembled, and the air filled with the acrid smell of ozone and burnt circuitry. "The hybrids," Dr. Lita breathed, her scales rippling with a mix of fear and awe. "Their accelerated growth must be overloading the power grid." As if in response to her words, the communication array sparked to life, its systems operating on the last dregs of emergency power. Adam and Dr. Lita exchanged a determined look, knowing this might be their only chance. "Now or never," Adam said, his fingers flying over the controls. Together they crafted a concise message detailing the unintentional nature of human Rakari compatibility, the existence of the neutralizing agent, and General Zaxelor's plans to weaponize the hybrid offspring. As they prepared to transmit, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from beyond the holographic barrier. "Hurry," Dr. Lita urged, her claws clicking nervously against the console. With a final keystroke, Adam sent the message hurtling through subspace, destined for both the Rakari public and the Galactic Council. The moment the transmission completed, the communication array sputtered and died, leaving them in near-total darkness. "We did it," Adam whispered, allowing himself a brief moment of relief. Their celebration was short-lived. The holographic barrier flickered and failed, revealing a squad of General Zaxelor's elite troops, their weapons trained on the two intruders. "Surrender immediately," the lead soldier barked, his voice distorted by his helmet's audio system. Adam and Dr. Lita raised their hands slowly, their minds racing for a way out of this predicament. Just as the soldiers moved to apprehend them, a piercing psychic scream tore through the facility. The troops staggered, clutching their heads in agony. Taking advantage of the confusion, Adam grabbed Dr. Lita's hand, and they bolted past the incapacitated soldiers. As they ran through the chaotic corridors of the breeding center, they witnessed scenes of incredible transformation. Hybrid offspring, their growth now wildly accelerated, moved with otherworldly grace and power. Some phased through solid walls, while others manipulated energy fields with a mere thought. The air crackled with psychic energy, and Adam felt a strange pressure building in his mind. "We need to find Dr. Zarel," Dr. Lita panted as they ducked into an alcove to avoid a patrol of combat drones. His data crystal could be the key to understanding all of this. As if summoned by their words, a familiar voice echoed through the facility's communication system. "Attention all personnel. This is Dr. Zarel, Chief Geneticist of the Rakari Interstellar Breeding Center. I have critical information regarding the current situation. All parties are advised to cease hostilities immediately." "He's heading for the central laboratory," Dr. Lita deduced, her scientific mind quickly piecing together the puzzle. "We need to rendezvous with him there." They set off through the labyrinthine corridors, narrowly avoiding skirmishes between Zaxler's forces and groups of empowered hybrids. As they neared the central laboratory, they encountered an unexpected ally. A hybrid, more mature and composed than the others they had seen, stepped out from behind a twisted mass of metal that had once been a security door. Her features were a perfect blend of human and Rakari, radiating an aura of calm intelligence. "I am Zara," she said, her voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "I can help you reach Dr. Zarel." Adam and Dr. Lita exchanged a wary glance, but the urgency of their situation left them little choice. "Lead the way," Adam nodded. With Zara's assistance, they navigated through the increasingly unstable facility. Her advanced senses allowed them to avoid patrols and bypass malfunctioning security systems. As they moved, Zara peppered them with questions about her own existence and the nature of her hybrid heritage. "There's so much I don't understand," she confessed, as they paused to catch their breath. "I feel connected to something vast and ancient, yet I'm barely hours old." Before they could delve deeper into Zara's existential crisis, a massive tremor shook the facility. Alarms blared, and a computerized voice announced, "Warning! Critical power fluctuations detected. Containment systems failing in multiple sectors." We're running out of time, Dr. Lita urged, her scales flushing with anxiety. They pressed on, finally reaching the entrance to the central laboratory. Inside, they found Dr. Zar-El hunched over a console, his fingers dancing across holographic displays as he worked to decrypt the data crystal. Dr. Lita, Mr. Reeves, he greeted them without looking up. I'm glad you made it. We have much to discuss and precious little time. As Dr. Zar-El began to explain the true origins of human Rakari genetic compatibility, a group of mature hybrids phased through the laboratory walls. They moved with purpose, their eyes fixed on the ancient genetic sequencing machines that had begun to hum with activity. Suddenly, General Zaxler's voice boomed through the facility's speakers. This is your final warning. Surrender the hybrids and all research data immediately, or I will be forced to take drastic action. The threat hung in the air as Adam, Dr. Lita, Zara, and Dr. Zar-El exchanged grim looks. The genetic sequencing machines continued their work, producing a mysterious substance that glowed with an otherworldly light. Outside the laboratory, they could hear the approaching footsteps of Zaxlor's elite troops. As the tension in the room reached a fever pitch, the facility's AID spoke in a voice tinged with uncertainty. Alert! Unauthorized activation of electromagnetic pulse generator detected. All personnel are advised to... The message cut off abruptly, leaving the occupants of the central laboratory in a state of dreadful anticipation. The fate of two species, countless hybrid lives, and perhaps the entire galaxy now hung in the balance as multiple forces converged on their position. The ominous silence following Ada's truncated warning was shattered by a cacophony of alarms. Red emergency lights bathed the central laboratory in an eerie glow as the facility's infrastructure groaned under the mounting pressure of the maturing hybrid's energy output. Dr. Zar-El's fingers flew across the holographic displays, his face a mask of concentration as he worked to decrypt the data crystal. We don't have much time, he muttered, his eyes never leaving the screen. Adam surveyed the room, taking in the group of mature hybrids gathered around the ancient genetic sequencing machines. Their eyes gleamed with an otherworldly intelligence as they observed the mysterious substance being produced. A violent tremor shook the laboratory, causing equipment to rattle and sparks to fly from overloaded circuits. Dr. Lita stumbled, catching herself on a nearby console. The facility can't take much more of this, she said, her scales flushing a deep crimson with anxiety. Zara, the hybrid who had guided them to the lab, closed her eyes and tilted her head, as if listening to a distant sound. The others, they're scared, confused. Their powers are growing faster than they can control. Before anyone could respond, the lab's doors burst open. A squad of General Zaxlor's elite troops stormed in, their weapons trained on the group. By order of General Zaxlor, surrender immediately, the lead soldier barked. In a blur of motion, Zara moved. She phased through the incoming fire, her form shimmering as she engaged the soldiers in close combat. Adam, acting on instinct, dove for cover behind a bulky piece of equipment, pulling Dr. Lita with him. Dr. Sarl, still focused on the data crystal, shouted over the chaos. I've almost got it. Just a few more seconds. As Zara grappled with the soldiers, her movements fluid and precise, Adam noticed the other hybrids beginning to stir. Their eyes glowed with an inner light, and the air around them crackled with energy. Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the facility. The lab's reinforced walls buckled, and a section of the ceiling collapsed, narrowly missing the ancient genetic sequencing machines. Through the newly formed hole, Adam could see the night sky of Zalax Prime. Distant flashes of light caught his attention, the Galactic Council peacekeeping force entering the atmosphere. They're here, Adam breathed, a flicker of hope igniting in his chest. Dr. Lita's voice cut through his moment of relief. Adam, look! He turned to see Dr. Zar-El slumped over the console, blood trickling from a wound on his forehead. The data crystal lay shattered on the floor, its fragments glinting in the emergency lighting. As Adam and Dr. Lita rushed to the fallen scientist's side, Ada's voice echoed through the lab's remaining speakers. Warning, electromagnetic pulse generator activation sequence initiated. Estimated time to discharge, 10 minutes. The implications of Ada's warning hit Adam like a physical blow. If the EMP was activated, it would not only neutralize all electronic equipment, but potentially harm the hybrids as well. Dr. Lita helped Dr. Sorrell into a sitting position. The Rakari scientist coughed, then spoke in a raspy voice. The crystal, only fragments of data remain. It's not enough. Adam's mind raced, assessing their options. They needed to stop the EMP, protect the hybrids, and somehow get the truth about human Rakari compatibility to the public. As if in answer to his thoughts, Ada spoke again, this time directly addressing them. I can help broadcast the remaining data to the Galactic Council and Rakari public. However, this action will leave me vulnerable to General Zachor's override commands. Before they could respond, the lab doors slid open once more. Dr. Zhen entered, flanked by a group of telepathically linked hybrids. In her hands, she carried a vial of glowing liquid. We've secured the lower levels, Dr. Zhen announced, her eyes widening as she took in the scene of destruction. This substance, it's a stabilizing agent. It could control the hybrid's growth and prevent further egg-laying incidents. As the group huddled together, weighing their limited options, Zara stepped forward. Her eyes shimmered with an inner light as she spoke. I can absorb and redirect the electromagnetic pulse. It's risky, but I believe my hybrid physiology can handle it. Adam looked at the faces around him. Dr. Lita, her scales shifting colors with worry. Dr. Sorrell, battered but determined. Dr. Zhen, clutching the precious vial of stabilizing agent. And Zara, standing tall despite the uncertain fate that awaited her. In that moment, a plan began to form in Adam's mind. It was dangerous, perhaps even foolhardy, but it might be their only chance to save not just themselves, but the future of human-Rakari relations. All right, Adam said, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. Here's what we're going to do. As he began to outline his daring plan, the countdown to the EMP activation ticked relentlessly onward, and the sounds of battle echoed through the crumbling facility. The fate of 2 species and countless hybrid lives hung in the balance, with success hinging on the courage and ingenuity of this unlikely group of allies. Allies. Adam took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. All right, here's the plan. Dr. Lita, you and Dr. Zhen focus on synthesizing that stabilizing agent. It's our best shot at controlling this situation. Dr. Zarel, I need you to work with Ada to prepare the data for broadcast. He turned to Zara, whose eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. Zara, you said you could absorb the EMP. It's risky, but if you can redirect that energy, it might give us the edge we need. Zara nodded solemnly, her hybrid features set with drive. What about you? Dr. Lita asked, her scales shifting with concern. Adam's eyes hardened. I'm going after General Zachor. Someone needs to stop him from activating that EMP. As the group dispersed to their tasks, Adam slipped out of the lab and into the chaos of the crumbling facility. Alarms blared and emergency lights cast eerie shadows as he navigated the twisting corridors. The strain of the maturing hybrid's energy output was taking its toll on the building's infrastructure, causing sporadic power fluctuations and structural damage. Suddenly, the lights flickered and died, plunging the hallway into darkness. Adam froze, his heart pounding in his chest. As his eyes adjusted, he realized the malfunction had disabled the security systems. A stroke of luck, or perhaps the work of the hybrid's growing powers. Taking advantage of the unexpected opportunity, Adam pressed on toward General Zachor's command center. He moved swiftly and silently, years of diplomatic training allowing him to remain calm despite the chaos around him. Meanwhile in the lab, Dr. Lita and Dr. Zhen worked feverishly over a complex array of equipment. Their hands moved with practiced precision as they combined the glowing substance from the ancient genetic sequencing machines with their neutralizing agent. This is extraordinary, Dr. Zhen muttered, her eyes wide as she examined a holographic readout. The molecular structure is unlike anything I've ever seen. Dr. Lita leaned in, her scales shimmering with excitement. Look at how it's interacting with the neutralizing agent. It's not just stabilizing the hybrid's growth, It's potentially allowing for controlled activation of human Rakari compatibility. As they continued their work, Zara made her way through the facility's lower levels, navigating around collapsed beams and sparking circuitry. She could feel the hum of the EMP generator growing stronger as she approached, its energy resonating with something deep within her hybrid physiology. Back in the command center, General Zachor barked orders at his increasingly nervous subordinates. Holographic displays showed the chaos unfolding throughout the facility, and the general's face was twisted with fury. "Lock down all exits," he shouted. "No one leaves until we've contained this situation." The doors to the command center suddenly hissed open, and Adam strode in, his expression grim. "It's over, General. Your plans have been exposed." Zachor spun to face him, his hand reaching for his weapon. "Reeves, how did you—" Before he could finish, the command center's main view screen crackled to life. Ambassador Coleman's face appeared, flanked by a group of moderate Rakari officials. "General Zachor, by order of the Rakari High Council, stand down immediately." The general's eyes darted between Adam and the screen, his mind racing. "You don't understand," he snarled. "The hybrids are too dangerous to be left unchecked. They must be contained." As tensions in the command center reached a boiling point, Zara positioned herself near the EMP generator. She could feel the energy building, crackling just beneath the surface of the massive device. Taking a deep breath, she reached out with her hybrid senses, preparing to channel the impending electromagnetic pulse. The facility's speakers crackled to life with Ada's voice. "EMP activation in 10, 9, 8. In the lab, Dr. Lita and Dr. Jen watched anxiously as the final drops of the stabilizing solution dripped into a collection vial. The countdown continued, each second stretching into eternity. 3, 2, 1. A blinding flash erupted from the EMP generator. Instead of spreading outward, the energy coalesced around Zara. Her body glowed with an intense, otherworldly light as she absorbed the full force of the electromagnetic pulse. The air around her crackled with power as she redirected the energy, channeling it back into the facility systems. In the command center, Adam watched in awe as the holographic displays flickered and then blazed with renewed intensity. The ancient genetic sequencing machines, supercharged by the redirected energy, hummed with activity. Seizing the moment of distraction, Ada's voice rang out once more. "Commencing data broadcast to Galactic Council and Rakari Public Networks." General Zachor lunged for the control panel, but Adam intercepted him. The two grappled as the truth about human Rakari compatibility spread across the galaxy. The result of ancient genetic manipulation by a long-lost precursor species. As the full implications of the data became clear, the atmosphere in the command center shifted. Zachor's own troops exchanged uncertain glances, their loyalty wavering in the face of this revolutionary information. The facility shuddered as a massive ship descended from the sky. Through the command center's view screen, Adam recognized the insignia of the Galactic Council Peacekeeping Force. Admiral Koros, a respected neutral party known for his even-handed approach to interspecies conflicts, appeared on the communications channel. "This is Admiral Koros of the Galactic Council," his deep voice resonated through the speakers. "We are here to oversee a ceasefire and facilitate peaceful negotiations between all parties." With the arrival of the peacekeeping force and the broadcast of Dr. Zarel's data, the tide had turned. General Zachor slumped in defeat, realizing his plans had unraveled beyond repair. As the immediate crisis began to subside, Adam's thoughts turned to Dr. Lita and the others in the lab. He knew that their work on the stabilizing solution would be crucial in the coming days and weeks. The challenges ahead were numerous, but for the first time since this ordeal began, Adam felt a glimmer of hope. The breeding center, once a source of fear and chaos, now stood at the precipice of a new era in human-Rakari relations. As Adam prepared to contact Dr. Lita and coordinate their next steps, he couldn't help but wonder what other secrets this facility might hold, and what the future might bring for humans, Rakaris, and the extraordinary hybrids who now bridge the gap between them. As Adam prepared to contact Dr. Lita and coordinate their next steps, a sudden calm settled over the facility. The chaos of the past hours gave way to an eerie quiet, broken only by the steady hum of machinery and the occasional crackle of damaged circuitry. In the days that followed, the Rakari Interstellar Breeding Center underwent a transformation. A flurry of activity saw damaged sections cordoned off, while a wing of the facility was rapidly renovated to serve as the new base of operations for the Joint Human Rakari Research Initiative. Adam and Dr. Lita found themselves thrust into leadership roles, co-heading the unprecedented collaborative effort. Their first task was monumental, creating a comprehensive database of all human Rakari interactions and their outcomes, including detailed genetic analyses of the hybrid offspring. As they pored over the data, a pattern began to emerge. Dr. Lita's scales shimmered with excitement as she called Adam over to her workstation. "Look at this," she said, gesturing to a holographic display of genetic sequences. "The compatibility between humans and Rakaris, it's not static, it's evolving." Adam leaned in, his brow furrowed in concentration. "What does that mean exactly?" "Each successive generation of hybrids is showing signs of increased stability," Dr. Lita explained, her voice tinged with awe. "And not just that, their abilities are becoming enhanced." The implications of this discovery sent ripples through the scientific community. Excitement mingled with concern as researchers debated the long-term consequences of this evolving compatibility. Meanwhile, Zara's unique role in absorbing the EMP's energy had unexpected consequences. As she recovered from the ordeal, she began to exhibit new and startling abilities. One morning, as Adam and Dr. Lita were reviewing security footage, Zara entered the control room and suddenly froze, her eyes glowing with an intense light. "The systems," she whispered, her voice taking on an otherworldly quality. "I can see them, feel them." Before their astonished eyes, Zara reached out and touched a nearby console. Instantly, data began streaming across the screens at an impossible rate. She was interfacing directly with the facility's systems, accessing and processing vast amounts of information faster than any computer. Recognizing the potential of Zara's newfound abilities, Adam and Dr. Lita quickly incorporated her into their research team. Her unique perspective and capabilities proved invaluable as they delved deeper into the mysteries of human Rakari compatibility. As the scientific work progressed, political machinations unfolded on a galactic scale. Ambassador Coleman found himself embroiled in tense negotiations, working tirelessly to craft a formal treaty between Earth and the Rakari homeworld. The proposed agreement aimed to establish guidelines for controlled human-Rakari interactions and joint scientific endeavors. However, opposition arose from both sides. Conservative human factions voiced concerns about the dilution of human genetic purity, while traditional Rakari groups feared the loss of their unique cultural identity. The negotiations became a delicate balancing act, with Ambassador Coleman struggling to find common ground between the opposing viewpoints. The breeding center, once a closely guarded secret, now found itself at the center of interstellar attention. Delegations from various alien species began arriving on Zalax Prime, their ships filling the skies above the facility. Some came to study the phenomenon of human Rakari compatibility, while others sought to negotiate similar agreements for their own species. The influx of visitors strained the center's resources and security measures. Adam found himself spending long hours coordinating with the newly established Galactic Council observation post, headed by Admiral Koros. Together, they implemented stricter protocols to manage the growing interstellar presence while maintaining the integrity of the ongoing research. In the midst of this controlled chaos, Dr. Zhen made a startling discovery. Working late one night with the ancient genetic sequencing machines, she uncovered a hidden subroutine in their programming. As she delved deeper into the code, her eyes widened in disbelief. "Adam, Dr. Lita," she called out, her voice trembling with excitement. "You need to see this." As they gathered around her workstation, Dr. Zhen explained her findings. These machines, they weren't meant to activate randomly. They were designed to come online under specific cosmic conditions that just happened to align with our recent crisis. The implications were staggering. Could the entire sequence of events, the crisis, The revelation of human Rakari compatibility, the creation of hybrids, have been part of some grand predetermined plan set in motion by the long-lost precursor species. As they grappled with this new information, Dr. Lita threw herself into her work with renewed vigor. Collaborating closely with Adam, she developed a groundbreaking technique to temporarily activate human Rakari compatibility in controlled settings. This method allowed for brief periods of genetic exchange without triggering uncontrolled egg-laying or rapid hybrid maturation. The first trial of this new technique was scheduled for the following day. As Adam and Dr. Lita prepared for the experiment, an atmosphere of nervous anticipation filled the lab. Neither of them could have predicted the extraordinary outcome that awaited them. An outcome that would challenge everything they thought they knew about human Rakari relations and push the boundaries of their own relationship in ways they never imagined. Imagined possible. As Adam and Dr. Lita initiated their groundbreaking experiment, an unexpected surge of energy coursed through the lab's equipment. Alarms blared, and the monitoring systems displayed a rapid cascade of data that left even the seasoned researchers stunned. "This can't be right," Dr. Lita muttered, her scales shimmering with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "The embryo's development rate is off the charts." Adam leaned in, his eyes widening as he processed the information flooding the screens. "It's growing at an exponential rate. We need to alert the team immediately." Within hours, the hybrid embryo had progressed to a fetal stage, its rapid maturation defying all previous understanding of human Rakari genetics. The research team worked tirelessly, documenting every millisecond of this unprecedented development. As word of the extraordinary experiment spread, the fragile peace that had settled over the facility began to fracture. Protests erupted both on Earth and Rakar, with conservative factions demanding an immediate halt to the research. The air crackled with tension as opposing ideologies clashed over the airwaves and in the streets. Amidst the growing controversy, a sleek Rakari shuttle touched down at the breeding center's landing pad. Dr. Alara Venn, a tall, imposing figure with iridescent scales, strode purposefully into the facility. Her reputation as a brilliant but secretive geneticist preceded her, and her unexpected arrival sent ripples of unease through the research team. Adam intercepted her in the main corridor. "Dr. Venn, we weren't expecting you. What brings you to our facility?" Ilara's piercing gaze locked onto Adam. "I've come to offer my expertise. My work on accelerated growth patterns might prove useful in your current situation." Before Adam could respond, Zara burst into the corridor, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Something's wrong," she gasped. "I can sense disturbances in the data streams." Adam's brow furrowed. "What kind of disturbances?" "Anomalies," Zara replied, her voice strained. "Like shadows in the system. But every time I try to isolate them, they vanish." Dr. Lita, who had joined them, exchanged a worried glance with Adam. Could it be a side effect of the hybrid fetus's development? As if in response to Dr. Lita's question, the lights in the corridor flickered, and a low, pulsating hum reverberated through the walls. In the lab, the hybrid fetus, now equivalent to a third trimester human pregnancy, emitted a series of low-frequency electromagnetic pulses that sent the facility's communication systems into disarray. Alarms blared as security protocols activated, sealing off sections of the breeding center. Admiral Koros's voice crackled over the intercom, distorted by interference. "Attention all personnel. We're detecting unauthorized activity in the outer perimeter. Initiating lockdown procedures." Unbeknownst to the research team, General Zachor and his loyalists had begun their infiltration. Using advanced cloaking technology, they slipped past the facility's outer defenses, exploiting the chaos caused by the hybrid fetus's electromagnetic emissions. As the situation escalated, Dr. Lita made a startling discovery while analyzing the hybrid's genetic structure. Her hands trembled as she called Adam over to her workstation. "Look at these markers," she said, pointing to a complex genetic sequence. "They suggest latent psychic abilities, far beyond anything we've seen in previous hybrids." Adam's mind raced with the implications. If this is accurate, the potential power of future human Rakari offspring could be staggering. Dr. Venn, who had been observing silently, stepped forward. Perhaps this is why certain factions are so desperate to control your research. The promise of such power would be irresistible to some. Before they could delve deeper into this revelation, the hybrid fetus's growth suddenly accelerated beyond all previous projections. The monitoring equipment shrieked in protest as it struggled to keep up with the rapid changes. "It's reaching full-term development," Dr. Lita exclaimed, her voice a mix of awe and alarm. "We need to prepare for an imminent birth." As the research team scrambled to respond to this unexpected turn of events, the facility shuddered under the impact of an explosion. General Zaxler had launched his full-scale assault, his forces quickly overwhelming the breeding center's security personnel. The hybrid fetus's electromagnetic pulses intensified, causing a cascading failure of the power grid. Emergency lights bathed the lab in an eerie red glow as backup systems engaged, sealing off critical areas. Adam and Dr. Lita found themselves trapped in the darkened laboratory, cut off from the rest of the facility. The sounds of battle echoed through the walls as Zaxlor's forces clashed with the Galactic Council peacekeepers outside. In the dim light, Adam could see the persistence in Dr. Lita's eyes as she prepared for the impending birth. They both knew that the fate of not just the hybrid, but potentially the entire future of human-Rakari relations now rested in their hands. As they worked to create a sterile environment using what limited resources they had, the hybrid fetus emitted another powerful electromagnetic pulse. The lab's remaining systems flickered, and for a moment, an eerie silence fell over the room. In that silence, they heard it, the first faint cry of a new life form about to enter the world, one that could change the course of galactic history forever. The hybrid fetus's cry pierced the air, a sound unlike anything Adam or Dr. Lita had ever heard before. It was both alien and eerily familiar, a perfect blend of human and Rakari vocal cords. As they marveled at this new life, the lab plunged into darkness. The backup power systems, overwhelmed by the intense electromagnetic pulses, finally gave out. Adam blinked rapidly, his human eyes adjusting to the pitch black faster than Dr. Lita's Rakari vision. He fumbled through nearby drawers, his fingers searching desperately for anything useful. "Got them!" Adam exclaimed, cracking several chemical light sticks. The lab filled with an eerie green glow, casting long shadows across the equipment. Dr. Lita wasted no time. "Adam, I need you to gather every sterile item you can find. Gloves, blankets, surgical tools, anything." As Adam scrambled to collect supplies, Dr. Lita's medical training kicked in. She assessed the rapidly developing hybrid with practiced precision, her scales shimmering with a mix of awe and concentration. "This is unprecedented," she muttered, her hands moving swiftly. "The fetus is reaching full-term development in minutes." Adam returned with an armful of supplies, laying them out on a nearby workstation. "What do you need me to do?" "Prepare a clean surface," Dr. Lita instructed, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Use those sterilization wipes on that table. We'll need a safe place for the delivery." As Adam worked, the sounds of battle intensified outside. Explosions rocked the facility, and the muffled pop of weapon fire echoed through the walls. The sealed lab door shuddered under a heavy impact, the metal groaning in protest. Dr. Lita positioned herself at the makeshift birthing area, her focus unwavering. "It's time," she announced, her eyes locked on the hybrid. "Adam, I need you here. Support the head as it emerges." Adam moved into position, his heart racing. He watched in amazement as the hybrid's physiology adapted before his eyes, its body shifting to facilitate a smoother birth. Suddenly, a powerful contraction rippled through the hybrid. Dr. Lita guided the process with expert hands, her movement sure and precise. "Push," she urged, though it was unclear if the hybrid could understand. With a final intense pulse of electromagnetic energy that caused the chemical lights to flare brightly, the hybrid was born. A tiny cry filled the lab, somehow both fragile and strong. Adam stared in wonder at the newborn in his arms. Her skin had a subtle, shimmering quality, like sunlight on water. Her eyes, wide and alert, seemed to take in everything at once with an intelligence that belied her age. Dr. Lita quickly cleaned and examined the infant, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding the urgency of their situation. Fascinating, she breathed. A perfect blend of human and Rakari traits. Her physiological development is far beyond that of a typical newborn. Their moment of awe was shattered by the sound of tearing metal. The lab's sealed door began to buckle under sustained assault. "We need to move," Adam said urgently, cradling the hybrid close to his chest. "Is there another way out?" Dr. Lita scanned the room, her Rakari vision now adapted to the low light. "There," she pointed to a far corner. "Behind that storage unit. I can see airflow. It must be a maintenance shaft." As they rushed to clear a path to their escape route, the newborn hybrid let out a soft coo. Suddenly, a focused electromagnetic pulse emanated from her tiny body. The energy wave passed through the lab door, and they heard cries of surprise from the other side as weapons clattered to the floor. "Did she just—" Adam asked, incredulous. "Questions later," Dr. Lita interrupted, pushing aside the storage unit to reveal a narrow opening. "We need to go now." Adam quickly fashioned a protective carrier for the newborn using a flexible specimen container and padding from a nearby chair. He secured the hybrid inside, marveling at how her eyes tracked his movements with unnaturally sharp focus. Dr. Lita pried open the maintenance shaft and peered inside. "It's tight, but we should fit. I'll go first and guide us." As Dr. Lita disappeared into the darkness, Adam took one last look at the lab. The door was beginning to glow red-hot as Zaxalor's forces attempted to cut through. With the hybrid secure against his chest, he ducked into the shaft and pulled the cover closed behind him. The maintenance tunnel was a maze of tight corners and intersecting paths. Dr. Lita led the way, her Rakari senses helping navigate the pitch-black passages. Adam followed close behind, one hand steadying himself against the wall, the other protectively cradling the hybrid carrier. Suddenly, a section of the tunnel ahead lit up with a crisscrossing pattern of laser beams. Dr. Lady halted abruptly, nearly causing Adam to collide with her. "Automated defenses," she hissed. "The hybrid's pulses must have activated dormant systems." As they hesitated, unsure how to proceed, the newborn hybrid let out a soft gurgle. To their astonishment, the laser grid flickered and disappeared. "She's interfacing with the facility's system somehow," Adam whispered, a mix of awe and apprehension in his voice. They pressed on, encountering more activated defenses, shifting walls, electrified panels, and sensor-triggered gas dispensers. Each time, the hybrid seemed to sense the danger and neutralize it with a burst of electromagnetic energy. As they navigated the treacherous path, the sounds of battle grew louder. They could hear the shouts of Zaxalor's soldiers mixed with the replies of the facility's defenders. Explosions rocked the tunnels, sending dust and debris raining down on them. After what felt like hours of crawling through the claustrophobic shafts, they reached a panel that opened into a secondary research lab. Dr. Lita carefully pushed it open, scanning the room for threats. "It looks clear," she whispered, pulling herself out of the shaft. She turned to help Adam, who was struggling to maneuver with the hybrid carrier. Just as Adam's feet touched the lab floor, the door burst open. A squad of Zaxalor's soldiers poured in, weapons raised. "Freeze!" the lead soldier barked, his rifle trained on Adam and Dr. Lita. Time seemed to slow. Adam instinctively moved to shield the hybrid, while Dr. Lita tensed, ready to fight. But before anyone could act, the newborn hybrid emitted a pulse of energy unlike anything they had seen before. A shimmering, translucent field expanded from the carrier, enveloping Adam and Dr. Lita. The soldiers, caught in its edge, suddenly found themselves unable to move, their muscles locked in place. Adam and Dr. Lita exchanged a look of shock. The implications of this power were staggering, far beyond what they had imagined possible. "We need to go," Dr. Lita said urgently, shaking off her surprise. "That won't hold them forever." As they raced for the lab's exit, alarms blared throughout the facility. Admiral Chorus's voice, distorted by interference, came over the intercom. "All personnel, Zaxalor's forces have breached the inner sectors. Fall back to designated safe zones immediately." Adam and Dr. Lita sprinted down the corridor, the sounds of battle growing closer with each step. The hybrid remained eerily calm in her carrier, her eyes darting about as if analyzing every detail of their frantic escape. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with another group of soldiers. But these were the insignia of the Galactic Council. The lead officer's eyes widened as he took in the sight of Adam, Dr. Lita, and the hybrid carrier. "Are you the research team?" he asked urgently. "We're here to extract you. Follow us." Adam and Dr. Lita fell in behind the council soldiers, racing through the chaos-filled corridors of the facility. The fate of their research, the hybrid child, and perhaps the entire future of human-Rakari relations now hinged on their ability to reach safety. As they ran, the hybrid's eyes began to glow with an otherworldly light, and Adam felt a strange tingling sensation spreading from the carrier. He wondered what other surprises this extraordinary new life form might have in store, and whether they would be prepared for the consequences. Consequences this extraordinary new life form might have in store. As they raced through the facility's winding corridors, alarms blaring and chaos erupting all around them, Adam's mind raced with possibilities. Their Galactic Council escort led them through a series of emergency blast doors, each ceiling shut behind them with a resounding thud. The sounds of battle grew more distant, but the tension in the air remained palpable. Suddenly, the lead officer held up a hand, signaling for the group to halt. He tapped his communicator, listening intently to a message only he could hear. His expression tightened. "Change of plans," he announced, his voice low and urgent. "We've received intel about a secure research station nearby. It might be our best chance for temporary shelter and regrouping." Dr. Lita's scales rippled with concern. "Whose station? Can we trust this information?" The officer nodded grimly. "It belongs to a Dr. Alara Venn. She's been working on some highly classified projects related to your research. Admiral Koros vouches for her personally." With little choice, the group altered course, following their guide through a series of less-traveled maintenance corridors. The distant sounds of combat echoed through the metal walls, a constant reminder of the danger that pursued them. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a nondescript door, barely distinguishable from the surrounding paneling. The officer punched in a complex code, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, they found a woman bent over a holographic display, her fingers dancing across streams of data. She looked up, startled by their sudden appearance. "Dr. Venn?" Adam asked, still cradling the hybrid carrier protectively. The woman's eyes widened as she took in the sight before her. "Quick, inside," she urged, ushering them into the room. As soon as they crossed the threshold, she sealed the door behind them, engaging a series of locks that would have made a bank vault envious. "I wasn't expecting visitors," Dr. Venn said, her gaze fixed on the carrier in Adam's arms. "But I suppose nothing about today is going according to plan." Dr. Lita stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding caution. "Dr. Venn, your work, it's related to our hybrid research." Venn nodded, a mix of excitement and trepidation crossing her features. "More than related. I've been studying the ancient genetic sequencing machines that were the foundation of your project, and I've made a discovery that changes everything." She turned to her holographic display, manipulating the data to reveal a complex three-dimensional model of intertwining DNA strands. These machines weren't just designed for creating hybrids, they were meant to activate dormant genetic potential in both humans and Rakaris. "We're looking at the key to the next stage of evolution for both our species." The implications hit Adam like a physical blow. He looked down at the hybrid infant, her eyes still tracking every movement with unnatural acuity. "That explains her abilities, the electromagnetic pulses, the way she interfaced with the facility's systems." Dr. Venn nodded eagerly. "Exactly. And I suspect we've only scratched the surface of what she's capable of." Their discussion was interrupted by a distant explosion that shook the entire research station. Dr. Venn's expression hardened as she turned to a secondary display. "Zaxler's forces are assaulting the main database," she reported grimly. "They've breached several layers of security. If they get their hands on this research..." Adam didn't need her to finish the thought. The consequences of such powerful genetic technology falling into the wrong hands were too horrifying to contemplate. As if sensing the gravity of the situation, the hybrid infant let out a soft coo. Suddenly, the displays in the research station flickered, streams of data reorganizing themselves at impossible speeds. Dr. Lita gasped. She's interfacing with your systems, but how? She's never been exposed to this specific technology before. Dr. Venn shook her head in amazement. It's not just about exposure. Her cognitive abilities are developing at an unprecedented rate. She's not just interfacing, she's learning, adapting. Adam felt a tingling sensation spreading from the carrier, stronger than before. He looked down to see the hybrid's eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Dr. Venn, he said urgently, I think we need to examine her more closely. Something's happening. Without hesitation, Dr. Venn cleared a nearby examination table. Dr. Lita carefully lifted the infant from the carrier, placing her on the table. Advanced medical scanners hummed to life, bathing the child in a soft blue light. As they watched, the scanners recorded real-time changes in the hybrid's physiology. New neural pathways formed before their eyes, organs adapted and evolved, and energy readings fluctuated wildly. This is incredible, Dr. Lita breathed, her scientific mind racing to keep up with the data. She's not just growing, she's evolving. And look at these brainwave patterns. They're unlike anything I've ever seen. Adam leaned closer, drawn by an inexplicable connection to the child. As he did, the hybrid's eyes locked onto his. In that moment, he felt a presence brush against his mind, alien, yet somehow familiar. She's trying to communicate, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Not with words, but emotions, images. Dr. Venn's eyes widened. Rudimentary telepathy? At this stage of development? The implications are staggering. Their wonderment was cut short by another tremor shaking the station. Alarms blared, and emergency lights bathed the room in a pulsing red glow. We can't stay here, the Galactic Council officer said, his hand on his weapon. It's only a matter of time before Zaxler's forces find us. Adam nodded, his diplomatic instincts kicking in. We need an evacuation plan, not just for us, but for all the key research personnel. He activated his personal communicator, relieved to see it still function, despite the interference. Ambassador Coleman, do you read me? After a moment of static, a familiar voice crackled through. Adam, thank the stars, where are you? Quickly, Adam outlined their situation and location. We need a secure route out of here. Can you coordinate with any moderate Rakari officials outside the breeding center? I'm on it, Coleman replied. We've got allies working to create a safe corridor. But Adam, you need to hurry. The situation out here is deteriorating fast. As Adam conferred with the ambassador, Dr. Lita and Dr. Venn huddled over the examination table, their voices low and urgent. These energy fluctuations, Dr. Lita said, pointing to a particularly erratic readout, they're becoming more intense. If we can't find a way to stabilize them, Dr. Venn nodded grimly. I know, but the solution might be right in front of us. The ancient machines, they weren't just for activation. They were designed to control, to modulate these enhanced abilities. But the central laboratory is under siege, Dr. Lita countered. How can we possibly... Her words were cut off as the hybrid let out a sharp cry. A pulse of electromagnetic energy radiated from the infant, stronger than any before. The research station's systems flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. In the eerie silence that followed, Adam felt the hybrid's presence in his mind grow stronger. Images flashed before his eyes, schematics of the facility, paths through maintenance tunnels, faces of allies and enemies alike. As emergency power slowly restored minimal lighting, Adam looked at his companions with a mix of willpower and disbelief. I think, he said slowly, our little one here might have just given us a way out, but we're going to need help, and it's going to be dangerous. Dr. Lita met his gaze, understanding dawning in her eyes. You have a plan? Adam nodded, his mind racing to process the information the hybrid had shared. I do. But first we need to contact Admiral Koros. If we're going to pull this off, we'll need every ally we can get. As they gathered around to hear Adam's proposal, the hybrid cooed softly, her eyes still glowing with that strange, otherworldly light. Whatever came next, it was clear that this extraordinary child would be at the center of it all, for better or for worse. Worse. As the gravity of their situation sank in, Adam took a deep breath and steeled himself for what was to come. "All right, everyone," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. "We have a plan, but it's going to take all of us working together to pull this off." He quickly outlined the strategy to reclaim the hangar bay, emphasizing the crucial role their hybrid allies would play. Dr. Lita carefully secured the infant, now dubbed Nova by her caretakers, into a specially designed containment unit that would allow her to use her abilities while remaining protected. Lyra, the leader of the mature hybrids, stepped forward. "We're ready," she said, her eyes gleaming with purpose. "Just point us in the right direction." With a nod from Adam, Lyra and her team took point, their enhanced physical abilities allowing them to move with fluid grace through the facility's compromised corridors. As they advanced, they encountered pockets of resistance from Zachor's forces. The hybrids engaged in swift, efficient hand-to-hand combat, their unique powers giving them a decisive edge. Adam watched in awe as one hybrid disarmed a soldier with lightning-fast reflexes, while another used her enhanced strength to throw an attacker clear across the corridor. The team moved like a well-oiled machine, clearing a path for the rest of the group to follow. As they neared the hangar bay, Nova's electromagnetic pulses intensified. The lights flickered, and nearby control panels sparked and fizzled. Adam felt a surge of hope as he realized the infant's powers were providing them with an unexpected advantage. "Look," Dr. Lita exclaimed, pointing to a group of Zachor's soldiers ahead. Their weapons were malfunctioning, leaving them vulnerable to Lyra's advancing team. Taking advantage of the confusion, Adam's group breached the outer perimeter of the hangar with minimal resistance. As they entered the vast space, Adam's eyes widened at the scene before him. General Zachor stood near a transport ship, overseeing the loading of stolen research data. His face contorted with rage as he received reports of the advancing hybrid force. "Deploy the experimental weapons," Zachor bellowed to his troops. "Establish a defensive line and neutralize those abominations." Adam's mind raced, knowing they needed to act fast. He spotted a group of soldiers who seemed hesitant, their weapons lowered as they exchanged uncertain glances. Drawing on years of diplomatic experience, Adam stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Listen to me," he called out to the wavering soldiers. "This conflict doesn't have to end in more bloodshed. You have a choice." His words seemed to strike a chord. After a tense moment, a small faction of troops laid down their arms, weakening Zachor's defensive line. Meanwhile, Dr. Lita monitored Nova's vital signs closely. Suddenly, she noticed a spike in the infant's brainwave activity. "Adam," she called urgently, "something's happening with Nova." Before Adam could respond, Nova began projecting vivid mental images to everyone in the hangar. Allies and enemies alike found themselves momentarily disoriented by visions of possible outcomes, some showing victory, others defeat, and some too strange to comprehend. In the midst of the chaos, Lyra's hybrid team seized the opportunity. They launched a coordinated assault on Zachor's position, using their enhanced abilities to outmaneuver the rogue general's remaining forces. Adam watched as they pushed the enemy back, slowly but surely cornering them against the transport ship. A deafening explosion rocked the hangar, and Adam looked up to see the external doors buckling inward. Admiral Koros had come through, sealing off Zachor's escape route with a precision strike. As the battle intensified, Nova's powers surged once again. A visible energy field emanated from her containment unit, spreading across the hangar. Adam watched in amazement as Zachor's experimental anti-hybrid weapons sputtered and died, leaving his troops defenseless against Lyra's advancing forces. Cornered and desperate, General Zachor's eyes locked onto Nova's containment unit. With a snarl of rage, he began fighting his way through the chaos, intent on claiming his prize. Adam's heart raced as he realized the immediate threat. Without hesitation, he sprinted towards Nova, determined to intercept the rogue general before he could reach her. Time seemed to slow as Adam and Zachor converged on the containment unit. The human diplomat, driven by an instinct he didn't fully understand, launched himself at the Rakari soldier. They collided in a tangle of limbs, grappling fiercely mere feet from Nova. Despite his lack of formal combat training, Adam managed to hold his own against the experienced general. They traded blows, neither willing to give ground as they fought dangerously close to Nova's unit. Dr. Lita watched the struggle with growing alarm. Making a split-second decision, she released the containment unit's seals, freeing Nova to use her full range of abilities. The infant hybrid, sensing the danger, reacted instantly. A powerful energy barrier sprang into existence, separating Adam and Zachor and bringing their fight to an abrupt end. With Zachor subdued and his forces in disarray, Lyra's team quickly secured the hangar. As they began the process of recovering the stolen research data, Adam caught his breath, realizing just how close they had come to disaster. The sound of hurried footsteps drew his attention. Dr. Venn burst into the hangar, clutching a vial of the synthesized stabilizing agent for Nova. But before they could administer it, Nova underwent another startling transformation. Adam, Dr. Lita, and the others watched in awe as Nova's body began to emit a soft, pulsating light. The infant levitated slightly above her containment unit, her features shifting and changing before their eyes. When the transformation subsided, Adam found himself staring not at an infant, but at a young child. Nova's appearance had settled into a perfect blend of human and Rakari characteristics, her eyes shimmering with an intelligence far beyond her apparent years. As the team gathered around Nova, still processing the implications of her rapid maturation, Admiral Karas's voice crackled over the intercom. "We've secured the facility, but we need to move quickly. Prepare for immediate evacuation." Adam nodded, knowing their challenges were not nearly finished. As they boarded the specially prepared transport ship, his mind raced with questions about Nova's future and the complex political landscape they would need to navigate. The ship's engines hummed to life, and Adam felt a mixture of relief and apprehension as they prepared to leave the chaos of the breeding center behind. But as the launch procedures initiated, a new alert sounded from the ship's long-range sensors. "Unidentified fleet detected," the ship's AI announced, its synthetic voice tinged with urgency. "Approaching rapidly from Sector 7. Adam exchanged worried glances with Dr. Lita and the others. Their escape, it seemed, had just become far more complicated. The ship's AI displayed a holographic projection of the approaching vessels, their sleek designs unlike anything Adam had seen before. Admiral Koros's voice crackled over the comm system, his tone urgent but controlled. "We've identified the incoming fleet. It's the Zenth Consortium." Adam's stomach tightened. The Zenth Consortium was notorious for their ruthless pursuit of profit, often at the expense of scientific ethics. Their sudden appearance could only mean trouble. "Change of plans," Koros continued. "We can't risk a direct confrontation. I'm transmitting coordinates for a nearby uninhabited planet. Make your way there and lay low until we can assess the situation." As the ship's engines roared to life, Adam felt a sudden surge of energy emanating from Nova's containment unit. He turned to see the infant's form shifting and growing at an accelerated rate. Within moments, a young child sat where the infant had been, her eyes wide with intelligence beyond her apparent years. Dr. Lita gasped, her scientific curiosity overriding her shock. "Incredible! Her rate of maturation is far beyond anything we anticipated." Nova's eyes locked onto the ship's navigation console, and to everyone's amazement, her small hands began to dance over the controls with practiced ease. The ship's trajectory adjusted smoothly, plotting the most efficient course to the coordinates Admiral Koros had provided. She understands the navigation systems," the pilot stammered, watching in awe as Nova effortlessly managed the complex calculations. As they approached the planet, Adam noticed Dr. Lita frowning at her datapad. "What is it?" he asked, moving to her side. "The planet's surface is emitting unusual energy signatures," she replied, her brow furrowed. "They're unlike anything in our database." Adam considered their options. "We should investigate before committing to a landing. I propose a small reconnaissance team." Dr. Lita's eyes lit up. "I volunteer. These readings are fascinating, and they could be crucial to understanding Nova's development." Within minutes, a team consisting of Adam, Dr. Lita, and two of Lyra's hybrid companions boarded a shuttle and descended towards the planet's surface. As they broke through the cloud cover, Adam's breath caught in his throat. Below them stretched a vast alien landscape, dotted with strange crystalline formations. The shuttle's sensors led them to the source of the energy readings, a massive structure partially buried beneath the planet's surface. Its architecture was unlike anything Adam had ever seen, with sweeping lines and materials that seemed to defy the laws of physics. As they landed and disembarked, Adam felt a chill run down his spine. "Those marking," he said, pointing to intricate symbols etched into the facility's exterior. "They're similar to the ones we saw on the genetic sequencing machines in the breeding center." Dr. Lita nodded, her eyes wide. "This can't be a coincidence. Whatever created this place might be connected to the species responsible for human Rakari compatibility." They cautiously entered the facility, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. Suddenly, the air around them shimmered, and holographic figures sprang to life. These beings were neither human nor Rakari, but a perfect blend of both species. The holograms began to speak in an unknown language, their voices resonating with an otherworldly quality. Adam fumbled for his translator, but before he could activate it, Nova's voice came through their communicators. I can understand them," she said, her young voice filled with wonder. "They're talking about a plan, a grand design to create a new species capable of surviving the dangers of deep space." As Nova translated, the true scope of their discovery began to unfold. The precursor species had engineered humans and Rakaris with the intention of eventually creating hybrids like Nova, beings with unprecedented abilities and the potential to unlock advanced technologies. Their exploration led them deeper into the facility, where they encountered a chamber filled with stasis pods. Most were empty, but one remained active, its occupant perfectly preserved. "It's one of them," Dr. Lita breathed, her hand hovering over the pod's control panel. "A living member of the precursor species." Adam felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Awakening this being could provide invaluable information about Nova's heritage and abilities, but it also carried immense risks. Before they could decide, a violent tremor shook the facility. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling as the ground beneath their feet shifted ominously. "The planet's tectonic activity," Dr. Lita shouted over the rumbling. "It's been agitated by the energy emissions from the facility. We need to leave now." As they raced back towards the shuttle, Nova's voice once again came through their communicators. "Wait, there's something else. I'm seeing a vision." Despite the urgency of their situation, Adam felt compelled to listen. Nova described a future where humans, Rakaris, and hybrids work together, unlocking the secrets of the universe. The image filled him with a sense of purpose and hope. They reached the shuttle just as another tremor threatened to tear the facility apart. As they lifted off, Adam saw the ancient structure begin to collapse in on itself, taking with it countless secrets of the past. Back on the main ship, they were greeted by Dr. Ven's worried face. "We have a problem," she said, gesturing to her workstation. "Nova's physiology is evolving so rapidly that the stabilizing agent is losing its effectiveness. I need to modify it using materials from that facility." Adam looked out the viewport, watching as the last traces of the precursor facility disappeared beneath the planet's surface. He knew their challenges were a long way to go. The ship's communication system crackled to life, and Admiral Chorus's voice filled the bridge. "The Zenth Consortium has entered orbit. Their leader, Varric Thorn, is requesting to speak with us. He's offering a substantial payment for access to Nova and our research data." Adam exchanged glances with Dr. Lita and the others. The weight of their next decision pressed heavily upon them. With the facility destroyed, Nova's unstable condition, and the Zenth Consortium closing in, they faced a crucial moment that would shape not only their own futures, but potentially the course of galactic civilization itself. Adam took a deep breath, his mind racing as he considered their options. The weight of their next decision pressed heavily upon them all. Before he could respond to Admiral Koros, the ship lurched violently, nearly throwing them off their feet. "What's happening?" Adam called out, steadying himself against a nearby console. The pilot's fingers flew across the controls. "The planet's tectonic activity is intensifying rapidly. We need to leave now." Admiral Koros's voice crackled through the comm system once more. "Understood. All ships, prepare for immediate evacuation. We'll deal with the Zenth Consortium once we're clear of this unstable planet. The engines roared to life, vibrating through the hull as the ship began its ascent. Through the viewports, Adam watched as fissures opened across the planet's surface, swallowing the remains of the ancient facility. They had barely escaped with the crucial data and materials they'd recovered. As they broke through the atmosphere, the ship's sensors blared another warning. The Zenth Consortium fleet loomed ahead, their sleek vessels forming an imposing blockade. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. It's Varric Thorn, leader of the Zenth Consortium. Adam stepped forward, drawing on years of diplomatic experience. Put him through. A holographic projection flickered to life, revealing an imposing figure with sharp features and calculating eyes. I am Varric Thorn, the man stated, his voice smooth, yet edged with steel. I'll cut to the chase. We're prepared to offer a substantial payment for access to the hybrid child and your research data. Adam's mind raced, formulating a response. As he opened his mouth to speak, he felt a strange tingling sensation at the base of his skull. Nova's eyes were fixed on him, a soft glow emanating from her small form. Suddenly, Adam noticed subtle fluctuations in the transmission quality. Thorne's image wavered slightly, his words occasionally distorting. Adam realized with a start that Nova was interfacing with the ship's systems, giving him an unexpected advantage in this delicate negotiation. Mr. Thorne, Adam began, his voice steady, I appreciate your directness. However, the situation is far more complex than a simple transaction. We're dealing with unprecedented scientific discoveries that could reshape our understanding of genetics and interspecies compatibility. As Adam spoke, he noticed Thorne's expression flicker with frustration each time the transmission stuttered. Taking advantage of this, Adam pressed on, outlining the potential benefits of collaboration rather than confrontation. Meanwhile, in the ship's laboratory, Dr. Lita and Dr. Venn worked feverishly to analyze the materials they'd recovered from the planet. Surrounded by holographic displays of complex molecular structures, Dr. Venn let out a triumphant cry. We've done it, she exclaimed, holding up a vial of shimmering liquid. An improved version of the stabilizing agent for Nova. Dr. Lita scanned the new compound, her eyes widening. Wait, there's something else here. This agent, it seems to have the potential to enhance latent genetic traits in non-hybrid individuals as well. Before they could discuss the implications further, alarms blared throughout the ship. Energy surge detected in cargo hold 3, the ship's AI announced. Lyra and her hybrid team raced to the cargo hold, finding the stasis pod they'd recovered, pulsing with an eerie light. As they approached, they felt a strange resonance within their own bodies, their hybrid abilities amplifying in proximity to the ancient technology. We need to move this to a secure containment area, Lyra ordered, her voice tense. Now. Back on the bridge, the standoff with the Zenth Consortium had reached a critical point. Thorne's patience was wearing thin, his holographic image leaning forward menacingly. Enough stalling, he growled. Either agree to our terms or we'll take what we want by force. Admiral Koros's voice cut through the tension. Defensive systems online. We will not be intimidated, Thorne. As the two ships faced each other, weapons primed, Nova suddenly stood up. Her eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and a wave of energy pulsed outward from her small form. In an instant, everyone aboard both ships, human, Rakari, and Zenth alike, found themselves immersed in a vivid shared vision. They saw a future of unparalleled cooperation and advancement, where the knowledge gained from the precursor species and hybrid research had unlocked the secrets of deep space travel and interspecies harmony. As the vision faded, a stunned silence fell over both vessels. Adam, seizing the moment, spoke quickly. Mr. Thorne, what we've just experienced proves the value of collaboration. I propose a joint research initiative that could benefit all our peoples. Thorne's expression was unreadable for a long moment. Finally, he nodded slowly. A temporary ceasefire, then. I'll send a team to verify your claims and assess the hybrid child's abilities. As preparations began for the Zenth delegation's arrival, Dr. Lita carefully administered the new stabilizing agent to Nova. The effect was immediate. Nova's rapid aging slowed, and her powers stabilized at a more manageable level. However, as Dr. Lita turned away, she accidentally brushed against the vial, a small drop landing on her skin. Within moments, she felt a strange tingling sensation spreading through her body. Her senses sharpened, thoughts coming faster and clearer than ever before. "Doctor?" Adam asked, noticing her sudden stillness. "Are you all right?" Before she could respond, the ship's AI interrupted. "Zenth shuttle approaching. Prepare for docking procedures." As the team gathered to receive their guests, a final alert sounded from the containment area. The stasis pod's activity had increased dramatically, its ancient occupant showing signs of awakening after millennia of sleep. Adam exchanged glances with his companions, the gravity of their situation clear. With the Zenth scientists moments away from boarding, Nova's powers newly stabilized, and an ancient being on the verge of awakening, they stood on the precipice of a new chapter in galactic history. The challenges ahead would test not only their scientific knowledge, but their ability to navigate the complex web of interspecies politics and the unknown legacy of the precursor race. Species. The challenges ahead would test not only their scientific knowledge, but their ability to navigate the complex web of interspecies politics and the unknown legacy of the precursor species. As the Zenth shuttle docked, a palpable tension filled the air. Dr. Lita, still reeling from her accidental exposure to the stabilizing agent, felt her senses sharpen to an almost painful degree. The hum of the ship's engines, once a background noise, now pulsed through her body like a second heartbeat. She blinked rapidly, her mind processing information at an unprecedented rate. "Dr. Lita, are you all right?" Adam asked, his voice permeated with concern. She nodded, straightening her posture. "Better than all right. I think I can handle this." Without waiting for a response, she strode towards the airlock, her newfound confidence propelling her forward. As the Zenth scientific team entered, Dr. Lita found herself analyzing their body language, picking up on subtle cues she'd never noticed before. "Welcome aboard," she said, her voice steady. "I'm Dr. Lita, lead xenobiologist. Shall we begin our scientific exchange?" The Zenth scientists exchanged glances, clearly taken aback by her assertiveness. As they moved toward the lab, Dr. Lita began explaining complex genetic theories with remarkable clarity, her enhanced cognitive function allowing her to draw connections that had previously eluded her. Meanwhile, Adam focused his attention on Varric Thorn, the Zenth consortium leader. Years of diplomatic experience came to the forefront as he carefully chose his words. "Mr. Thorn, I believe we have an opportunity for unprecedented cooperation," Adam began, his tone measured. "Our recent discoveries have implications that extend far beyond any single species or faction." Thorn's eyes narrowed. "And what assurances do we have that your people won't use this knowledge against us?" Adam leaned forward, his voice low and intense. "The same assurances you give us. We're standing on the precipice of a new era. The question is, do we face it together or tear ourselves apart fighting over scraps?" As they continued their discussion, alarms blared throughout the ship. Lyra's voice crackled over the intercom. "Bridge, we have a situation in the containment area. The stasis pod is becoming unstable." In the containment area, Lyra and her hybrid team surrounded the pulsing stasis pod. Energy arced across its surface, causing the ship's lights to flicker ominously. "Our abilities," one of Lyra's team members gasped, "they're amplifying." Lyra felt it too, a surge of power coursing through her veins. She reached out instinctively, her enhanced abilities allowing her to manipulate the energy field around the pod. But it wasn't enough. "We need to move this to a more secure location," she ordered, her voice strained with effort. As they struggled with the pod, Nova entered the room. Her eyes widened as she felt a presence reach out to her mind. Images flooded her consciousness. Fragments of a grand plan, glimpses of a cosmic threat looming on the horizon. "Wait," Nova called out, her small voice cutting through the chaos. "I can communicate with the being inside." Before anyone could respond, the pod's energy emissions spiked. The ship lurched violently, throwing everyone off balance. In the lab, vials of the improved stabilizing agent crashed to the floor, shattering and releasing a fine mist into the air. Dr. Venn, who had been analyzing the agent, felt a tingling sensation spread through her body as she inhaled the mist. Her mind raced, connections forming at lightning speed. "The agent," she gasped, turning to the startled Zenth scientists. Combined with elements from the ancient facility, it could temporarily grant hybrid abilities to non-hybrids. The implications of her words hung heavy in the air, but before anyone could respond, the ship's AI announced, "Warning, critical power fluctuations detected. Containment field failing." In the containment area, the stasis pod burst open with a blinding flash of light. As the glare faded, a female figure emerged. Alira, the precursor scientist, awakening after millennia of sleep. Her presence sent a shockwave through the ship. Nova fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the sudden amplification of her powers. Around her, reality itself seemed to warp and bend. "Nova!" Adam called out, rushing to her side. But his voice seemed to come from a great distance as part of the ship began to phase out of normal space-time. Alira, still disoriented, looked around in confusion. Her gaze fell on Nova, recognition flickering in her ancient eyes. As chaos engulfed the ship, Admiral Koros's voice cut through the din. "All hands prepare for emergency protocols. We're detecting multiple incoming vessels from various factions. The situation just got a lot more complicated." Adam looked from Nova to Alira, then to the approaching Zenth and the malfunctioning ship systems. The weight of the moment pressed down on him as he realized that the next few minutes would shape the course of galactic history. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay before them. Suddenly, Nova's small form convulsed, her eyes rolling back as waves of psychic energy pulsed outward. The force of the blast knocked everyone to the ground, leaving crew members and Zenth scientists alike stunned and disoriented. In the moment of chaos that followed, Adam locked eyes with Dr. Lita. Despite the ringing in their ears and the spinning deck beneath their feet, they shared a silent understanding. This was their chance to regain control. "Dr. Lita, stabilize the ship's systems," Adam commanded, his voice barely audible over the blaring alarms. "I'll handle communications." Nodding sharply, Dr. Lita sprinted toward the nearest control panel. Her fingers flew over the interface, her enhanced cognitive abilities allowing her to process information at an unprecedented rate. Lines of code scrolled across the screen as she implemented a series of emergency protocols. "Rerouting power from non-essential systems," she muttered, her eyes darting across the display. "Initiating containment field to counteract energy emissions from the stasis pod." As Dr. Lita worked, Adam made his way to the ship's long-range communication array. He keyed in a series of commands, preparing a broadcast to the approaching vessels. "Attention incoming ships," he began, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "This is Adam Chen of the research vessel Horizon. We are experiencing severe technical difficulties and have detected an unstable energy field surrounding our ship. For your own safety, maintain your distance until further notice." The message sent, Adam turned his attention to the recovering crew. "Lyra," he called out, spotting the hybrid officer struggling to her feet. "Secure the lab containing the stabilizing agent. We can't risk the Zenth getting their hands on it." Lyra nodded, gesturing to her team. They moved swiftly, sealing off the laboratory and implementing strict security measures. In the midst of the commotion, Alira, the newly awakened precursor, stood motionless. Her ancient eyes scanned the scene, a look of recognition slowly dawning on her face as they settled on Nova. "Child," she said, her voice resonating with otherworldly power. "Your gifts, they are as we intended." Nova looked up, her small frame trembling with the effort of containing her amplified abilities. Alira knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder. "The hybridization project," Alira continued, her voice carrying despite the cacophony around them. "It was not mere scientific curiosity that drove us. We sought to create a species capable of withstanding a grave threat." Adam moved closer, his interest piqued despite the urgent situation. "What threat?" he asked. Alira's eyes met his, filled with the weight of millennia. "A cosmic predator," she explained, "an energy-based life form that feeds on the essence of sentient beings. It is drawn to advanced civilizations, consuming entire worlds in its wake." As Alira spoke, Nova's breathing steadied. The precursor's touch seemed to calm the storm of energy within her. Slowly, Nova's eyes closed, her face relaxing as she entered a trance-like state. "I'm teaching her," Alira explained, noting Adam's concern. "Showing her how to control her gifts." Across the room, Dr. Venn stumbled to her feet, shaking off the last effects of Nova's psychic blast. Her eyes widened as she took in the scene before her. "The stabilizing agent," she gasped, a look of revelation crossing her face. "I think I can refine it further. We might be able to grant temporary hybrid abilities to non-hybrids without permanent genetic alteration." Before anyone could respond, Admiral Chorus's voice cut through the chaos. "Chen, we've got a secure link with the Galactic Council. They're sending a specialized containment and research fleet to assist us." As the Admiral relayed the information, the ship's sensors blared to life. A swirling vortex of energy began to form in nearby space, its characteristics matching Alira's description of the cosmic threat. Adam's mind raced, processing the multiple challenges they faced, the approaching factions, the ongoing hybrid research, and now this potential cosmic threat. He knew they needed a plan, and fast. "Emergency meeting," he announced, his voice carrying the weight of command. "Admiral Koros, Dr. Lita, Alira, Nova, we need to formulate a strategy." As they gathered, Nova's eyes snapped open. She stood, her small form radiating with scarcely controlled power. Before anyone could react, she reached out, channeling a surge of energy into the ship's systems. The lights flickered, then blazed brighter than before. Displays lit up across the bridge, showing massively enhanced defensive capabilities and supercharged propulsion systems. Adam stared in awe at the readings, then at Nova. The young hybrid met his gaze, a mix of willpower and fear in her eyes. "I can help," she said simply. As the group huddled together, formulating plans and strategies, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that they stood at a pivotal moment in galactic history. The decisions they made in the next few hours would shape the future of human-Rakari relations, the course of hybrid research, and possibly the fate of all sentient life in the galaxy. Outside the viewports, the swirling vortex grew larger, its ominous presence a stark reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. The horizon hung suspended between the approaching factions and this new cosmic threat, a linchpin in a rapidly escalating galactic crisis. As the gravity of their situation settled in, Adam's attention was suddenly drawn to Dr. Lita, who was hunched over a nearby console, her eyes darting across streams of data. "Adam," she called, her voice tight with urgency. "I'm detecting an unusual energy signature from a nearby asteroid field. It's familiar." Adam moved swiftly to her side, studying the readouts. "Familiar how?" Dr. Lita's enhanced cognitive abilities were working overtime, making connections at lightning speed. "It matches the energy signature of the genetic sequencing machines we found in the breeding center. Almost exactly." A spark of hope ignited in Adam's chest. "That can't be a coincidence. We need to investigate." He turned to the assembled group, his mind racing with possibilities. "I'm proposing a mission to the asteroid field. We'll take a small team in a scout ship. Dr. Lita, Nova, you're with me. Lyra, I need 2 of your hybrid companions as well." Admiral Koros nodded his approval. "Take the Nebula Skimmer. It's equipped with advanced shielding that should protect you from any energy emissions out there." As the team boarded the sleek scout ship, tension hung heavy in the air. The Nebula Skimmer detached from the horizon with a soft thud, its engines humming to life as it set course for the asteroid field. Nova sat quietly in her seat, her small frame rigid with concentration. As they approached their destination, her eyes suddenly widened. "I can feel something," she whispered. "It's calling to me." Dr. Lita looked up from her instruments, concern etched on her face. "Nova, what do you mean?" Before the young hybrid could respond, she gasped, her eyes rolling back. Images flooded her mind, flashes of advanced technology, hidden chambers, and a vast dormant facility. "There," Nova said, pointing to the largest asteroid in the field. "We need to go there. There's an entrance, hidden." Adam guided the scout ship closer, trusting Nova's instincts. As they approached, a section of the asteroid's surface seemed to shimmer and fade, revealing a concealed docking bay. Incredible, Dr. Lita breathed. Some kind of holographic camouflage. They docked the nebula skimmer and disembarked, stepping into a vast, silent chamber. Rows of dormant machines lined the walls, their design unmistakably similar to those found in the breeding center. It's a precursor outpost, Adam realized, his voice hushed with awe. As they ventured deeper into the facility, they encountered stasis pods. Most were empty, but a few contained perfectly preserved specimens of alien species, some familiar, others completely unknown. Dr. Lita approached the central terminal, her fingers hovering over the alien interface. If we can activate this, we might be able to learn more about the purpose of this place. Nova stepped forward, her eyes glowing faintly. I can help, she said, placing her small hand on the terminal. The console hummed to life, projecting a holographic message. The image of a precursor scientist flickered into view, speaking in their ancient language. Nova listened intently, translating for the others. This outpost is a failsafe, she explained, her voice tinged with awe. They created it to activate if a cosmic threat ever emerged. The hybridization program, it wasn't just about us. It was to develop species capable of resisting this threat. As Nova spoke, the facility around them began to awaken. Lights flickered on, and the dormant machines hummed to life. Energy coursed through the asteroid, creating a beacon visible to the approaching factions. Adam's comm unit crackled to life. Admiral Koros's voice filled with urgency. Chen, what's happening down there? Every ship in the sector just turned their attention to your location. Before Adam could respond, Nova gasped, her body going rigid. Her eyes glowed brightly as she interfaced directly with the outpost systems. Nova, Adam called out, moving to her side. What's happening? I can see it all, she whispered, her voice distant. The defensive network, the plans, everything. I can activate it, coordinate it, but it's so much. It hurts. Dr. Lita scanned Nova with a handheld device, her expression grim. The strain on her system is immense. If she continues, it could cause permanent damage. Adam found himself faced with an impossible choice. Allow Nova to continue, potentially saving countless lives but risking her own, or pull her back and lose their best chance at activating the precursor defenses. As he weighed his options, the scout ship's sensors blared a warning. The energy-based life form they had detected earlier was approaching rapidly, its presence already causing disruptions in their systems. Time was running out. The fate of not just their mission, but potentially the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Adam looked from Nova to Dr. Lita, the weight of command heavy on his shoulders as he prepared to make a decision that would change the course of history. History. Adam drew a deep breath, steeling himself for the decision that lay before him. Nova, he said softly, kneeling beside the young hybrid. I know it's difficult, but we need you to hold on just a little longer. Can you do that for us? Nova nodded, her face etched with perseverance. I think so, but hurry. Adam turned to Dr. Lita. Monitor her vitals closely. At the first sign of severe distress, we pull her out. No exceptions. Dr. Lita nodded, her enhanced cognitive abilities already processing various scenarios and outcomes. Let's move, Adam commanded, addressing the rest of the team. We need to get this data back to the horizon immediately. As they boarded the nebula skimmer, Adam's comm unit crackled to life once more. Admiral Koros's voice came through, tinged with a mix of urgency and excitement. Chen, we've got a situation up here. Multiple factions are converging on our position. They've detected the energy surge from the asteroid field. Adam's mind raced as he guided the scout ship out of the concealed docking bay. Understood, Admiral. We're on our way back with critical information. Prepare for an emergency briefing upon our arrival. The journey back to the horizon was tense, with Nova occasionally emitting soft whimpers as she struggled to contain the vast amount of information flowing through her mind. Dr. Lita remained by her side, monitoring her condition and offering what comfort she could. As they approached the research ship, Adam saw the space around it filled with a diverse array of vessels. The sleek, predatory shapes of Zenth Consortium ships contrasted sharply with the utilitarian designs of human research vessels and the organic curves of Rakari craft. The nebula skimmer docked smoothly, and as the team disembarked, they were met with a flurry of activity. The hangar bay was a hive of organized chaos, with representatives from various factions hurrying to and fro, their voices a cacophony of different languages and dialects. Admiral Koros strode purposefully towards them, his face a mask of controlled tension. "Chen, glad you're back. We've got a full house here. Everyone wants answers, and they want them now." Adam nodded, his eyes scanning the crowd. He spotted Varric Thorn, the notorious leader of the Zenth Consortium, engaged in a heated discussion with a group of human scientists. Nearby, a contingent of Rakari officials huddled together, their expressions guarded. "Admiral," Adam said, his voice low and urgent, "we've uncovered crucial information about the precursor outpost and its defensive capabilities. But more importantly, we've confirmed the nature of the cosmic threat we're facing. We need to brief everyone immediately." Koros nodded sharply. "Agreed. I've already called for an emergency summit. The main conference room is being prepared as we speak." As they made their way through the crowded corridors, Adam noticed a familiar face among the Rakari delegation. General Zachor, the hardline military leader known for his anti-hybridization stance, was being escorted under heavy guard. The general's eyes met Adam's, filled with a mixture of defiance and grudging curiosity. They entered the conference room, a large circular chamber dominated by a holographic display in its center. The room quickly filled with representatives from each faction, the air thick with tension and unspoken questions. Admiral Koros called the meeting to order, his authoritative voice cutting through the murmur of conversations. "Ladies and gentlemen, we face an unprecedented situation. I'll now turn the floor over to Adam Chen and his team to present their findings." Adam stepped forward, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon him. He began to speak, outlining their discoveries at the precursor outpost and the true nature of the cosmic threat they faced. As he spoke, Dr. Lita supplemented his report with detailed scientific analysis, her enhanced cognitive abilities allowing her to process and present complex data with remarkable clarity. The room erupted into a cacophony of voices as Adam concluded his presentation. General Zachor stood abruptly, his face contorted with anger. "This is madness," he shouted. "You expect us to believe that some ancient alien race foresaw this threat and created hybrids as a solution? This is clearly a ploy to justify your dangerous experiments." Before Adam could respond, a new voice cut through the din. "General Zachor, your skepticism is understandable, but perhaps premature." All eyes turned to the source of the voice. A tall, elegant Rakari female stood at the entrance of the conference room, her presence commanding immediate attention. Admiral Koros stepped forward. "Ambassador Lyria," he said, a note of relief in his voice. "Thank you for joining us on such short notice." Lyria nodded gracefully, her eyes scanning the room. "The gravity of the situation demanded my immediate attention. Now let us approach this rationally. We are faced with a threat that could affect us all. Our focus should be on finding a solution, not rehashing old arguments." As Lyria spoke, Adam noticed Nova shifting uncomfortably in her seat. The young hybrid's face was pale, her eyes unfocused. Suddenly, the lights in the conference room flickered, and the holographic display sputtered. Nova gasped, her small frame rigid. "It's coming," she whispered, her voice carrying in the sudden silence. "The entity, it's getting closer." As if in response to her words, the ship's alarms began to blare. The main display switched to a tactical view of the surrounding space, showing a massive, swirling vortex of energy approaching the asteroid field. Admiral Koros's voice cut through the rising panic. "All hands, battle stations, prepare for possible evacuation." As the room erupted into frantic activity, Adam locked eyes with Dr. Lita and Dr. Venn. They nodded in silent agreement. Whatever happened next, they knew their work on hybridization might be the key to humanity's survival. The cosmic entity loomed ever closer, its unknowable presence a stark reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. As the assembled leaders scrambled to formulate a response, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of a new era in galactic history. The decisions made in the next few hours would shape the future of not just humanity, but all sentient life in the galaxy. The conference room erupted into chaos as the alarms blared. Admiral Karas's voice cut through the din, issuing rapid-fire orders to prepare for potential evacuation. Amidst the pandemonium, Adam locked eyes with Dr. Lita and Dr. Venn, a silent understanding passing between them. Their work on hybridization might be the key to humanity's survival. As the assembled leaders scrambled to formulate a response, Dr. Venn stepped forward, his voice steady despite the tension. We have a potential solution, but it will require immediate action and cooperation from all factions. Admiral Koros turned to him, eyebrow raised. Explain quickly, Doctor. We're running out of time. Dr. Venn nodded, pulling out a small case containing vials of a silvery liquid. This is a modified stabilizing agent. It can temporarily grant hybrid-like abilities to non-hybrid individuals. We believe it could give us the edge we need to activate the precursor defenses. General Zaxler scoffed, but Ambassador Lyria held up a hand to silence him. How quickly can this be implemented? She asked. Immediately, Dr. Lita interjected. We've prepared doses for a select team from each faction. The effects should last long enough for us to reach the outpost and activate the defensive network. Admiral Koros surveyed the room, his gaze settling on Adam. Chen, you'll lead this hybrid task force. Select your team and prepare for immediate deployment. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Adam quickly assembled a team, including representatives from each faction. Dr. Venn administered the modified stabilizing agent, the process closely monitored by Dr. Lita and Alira. As the silver liquid coursed through his veins, Adam gasped. His senses sharpened, colors becoming more vivid, sounds more distinct. He felt a surge of strength and agility, his mind racing with newfound clarity. Nova, who had been silent throughout the commotion, suddenly perked up. Her eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as she looked at the newly formed hybrid task force. I can feel you all, she said, her voice filled with wonder. We're connected. Dr. Lita's eyes widened. Nova, are you saying you've established a mental link with the team? Nova nodded. It's like a network. We can communicate instantly, share thoughts and sensations. Adam marveled at this unexpected development, realizing its potential. This could be crucial for coordinating our efforts at the outpost. As they prepared to board the modified shuttle, the ship shuddered violently. Through the viewport, they could see smaller asteroids beginning to disintegrate, releasing bursts of energy that interfered with ship systems. We need to move now, Adam commanded, ushering his team toward the shuttle bay. As they boarded the specially modified craft, Adam felt a surge of purpose. He glanced at his team. Dr. Lita, her enhanced cognitive abilities already processing vast amounts of data. Varric Thorn, the Zenth Consortium leader, his eyes gleaming with strategic calculations. And the others, each bringing their unique skills and newly acquired hybrid abilities. The shuttle launched, plunging into the chaos of the disintegrating asteroid field. Adam gripped the controls, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to navigate the treacherous terrain with uncanny precision. Suddenly, the shuttle shuddered as it entered a pocket of highly charged particles. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. The particles are reacting to our hybrid physiology, Dr. Lita called out, her fingers flying over a console. Our systems can't compensate. Adam closed his eyes, reaching deep within himself to access his new abilities. He envisioned a protective field surrounding the shuttle, drawing on the energy coursing through his body. To his amazement, a shimmering barrier materialized around the craft, allowing them to pass safely through the danger zone. As they approached the precursor outpost, Adam felt Nova's presence in his mind, guiding them towards the hidden entrance. The facade of the asteroid shimmered and faded, revealing the vast docking bay they had discovered earlier. The team disembarked quickly, their movements fluid and coordinated, thanks to their enhanced abilities and Nova's mental link. They made their way deeper into the facility, each member instinctively moving to interface with different aspects of the precursor technology. Dr. Lita's fingers danced over alien consoles, her enhanced cognition allowing her to decipher complex systems in moments. Varric Thorn, drawing on his strategic mind and newfound abilities, coordinated the team's efforts with ruthless efficiency. As they worked to activate the defensive network, Adam felt a growing sense of urgency. Through their link with Nova, he could sense the cosmic entity drawing ever closer, its unknowable presence pressing against the edges of their consciousness. Suddenly the facility shuddered. Alarms blared as the outpost's outer defenses began to fail. Adam looked at his team, seeing the strain on their faces as they grappled with the alien technology. "We're missing something," he muttered, his enhanced senses scanning the room. His eyes fell on the central core, a massive pillar of pulsing energy at the heart of the facility. "The core! It needs more power!" Nova's voice echoed in their minds. "It requires a massive surge of compatible energy to fully activate. Our hybrid abilities, if we channel them together, it might be enough." Adam nodded, quickly outlining a plan to the team. It was risky, potentially deadly, but they had no other choice. As the cosmic entity's influence grew stronger, causing the outpost to shake violently, the hybrid task force moved into position around the central core. With Nova at the center, acting as a conduit, they joined hands. Adam took a deep breath, feeling the energy building within him. "Now!" he called out, and as one, they began to channel their hybrid abilities into the core. The air crackled with power as the outpost systems responded, slowly coming to life. Adam gritted his teeth against the pain, encouraging his team to push through. Around him, he saw several members collapse from the strain, while others struggled to maintain their focus. Just as it seemed they might fail, Adam felt a surge of new energy. Through their mental link, he sensed hundreds of hybrid minds joining their efforts. Those on the research ship, in the nearby fleet, all focused on powering the defensive systems. With a final, monumental effort, the precursor defenses roared to life. A massive energy shield sprang into existence around the asteroid field, just as the cosmic entity launched its attack. The collision of energies created a spectacular display of light and power. The shield held, but the strain on the hybrid network was immense. Adam saw Nova, at the center of the vast mental link, her small form trembling under the pressure. As the cosmic entity recoiled from its failed attack, Adam knew their work was just the beginning. They had to stabilize the defensive network, deal with the aftermath of their dangerous energy channeling, and prepare for the challenges that lay ahead. But for now, as he looked at his exhausted team and felt the buzz of countless hybrid minds linked together in common purpose, Adam allowed himself a moment of cautious hope. They had faced the unknown and survived. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Together in common purpose, Adam allowed himself a moment of cautious hope. They had faced the unknown and survived. Whatever came next, they would face it together. But that moment of respite was short-lived. As the blinding light from the collision of energies faded, the true toll of their actions became apparent. Around him, team members collapsed, their bodies pushed beyond their limits by the intense energy channeling. Others staggered, disoriented by sudden surges in their newly acquired abilities. Adam's own muscles screamed in protest as he forced himself to move, his enhanced senses overwhelmed by the chaos around him. "Dr. Lita," he called out, his voice hoarse, "we need to assess the team's condition immediately." Dr. Lita, her face pale but determined, nodded and began moving from person to person, her enhanced cognitive abilities allowing her to rapidly process the medical data. "Adam, this is worse than we anticipated," she said, her fingers flying over a portable medical scanner. "The combination of the modified stabilizing agent and the energy channeling has triggered physiological changes in everyone. These aren't temporary effects." Adam's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "The hybridization process," Dr. Lita explained, her voice tight with concern. "It's becoming more permanent. We need to get everyone back to the research ship for full medical evaluation." As they worked to organize the evacuation of the most affected team members, an urgent communication came through from the main research ship. Adam activated the holographic display, revealing the grim face of Admiral Koros. "Chen, we have a situation," the Admiral said without preamble. "The cosmic entity hasn't retreated. It's circling the defensive shield, probing for weaknesses. And there's more. It seems to be attempting some form of communication with the smaller asteroids in the field. Adam's mind raced with the implications. Admiral, we need immediate evac for our injured, and we need to stabilize this defensive network before... His words were cut off by a sudden piercing cry. Nova, still at the center of the mental network, convulsed violently, her eyes rolling back in her head. Adam rushed to her side, cradling her small form as she trembled. Nova, Nova, can you hear me? He called, but her eyes remained unfocused, seeing something beyond their physical surroundings. Civilizations. So many. Consumed. Assimilated, Nova mumbled, her voice eerily distant. Not destruction, transformation. Before Adam could process her words, Nova's body went limp, her consciousness retreating into some unreachable place. He looked up at Dr. Lita, panic rising in his throat. We need to get her out of here now. As they prepared for emergency evacuation, the precursor outpost shuddered ominously. Warning signals flashed across the alien consoles, indicating a new threat. The massive asteroids in the field had begun to shift their orbits, threatening the stability of the entire defensive network. Adam's comlink crackled to life. Admiral Koros's voice filled with urgency. Chen, we're picking up massive gravitational disturbances. If those asteroids keep moving, the whole shield could collapse. Torn between the immediate need to care for his team and the larger threat to their defenses, Adam made a split-second decision. Dr. Lita, oversee the evacuation. Get Nova and the others to safety. I'll stay here with a skeleton crew to stabilize the network. As Dr. Lita nodded and began coordinating the evacuation, Adam turned to the remaining team members. Despite their exhaustion, dedication shone in their eyes. They understood the stakes. All right, Adam said, his voice gaining strength. We need to realign the shield generators to compensate for the asteroid movement. Varric, use your strategic skills to calculate the optimal shield configuration. Dr. Venn, we need to boost power to the stabilizers. As they worked feverishly to maintain the integrity of their defenses, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Nova's cryptic words echoed in his mind, hinting at a cosmic threat far more complex than they had imagined. And somewhere out there, beyond the shimmering barrier of their shield, an entity of unimaginable power waited, probing, searching for a way in. The precursor outpost hummed with energy as Adam and his remaining team raced against time, their enhanced abilities pushed to their limits. The fate of not just their mission, but possibly the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. And as the cosmic entity continued its relentless assault on their defenses, Adam knew that the true test of their newfound powers and unity was yet to come. To come was about to begin. As the precursor outpost stabilized, Adam's attention was drawn to the urgent needs of his team. The toll of their hybrid transformations was evident in the strained faces and trembling limbs of his colleagues. Dr. Lita approached him, her expression grave. Adam, we need to get these people medical attention immediately, she said, her voice tight with concern. The hybridization process is progressing faster than we anticipated. Adam nodded, his mind racing. Agreed. Let's coordinate with the research ship for immediate evacuation. As they began organizing the transfer of injured personnel, a familiar face appeared on the holographic display. Dr. Xander Voss, the controversial human geneticist, stood in the research ship's medical bay, his eyes gleaming with barely held back excitement. I've been monitoring the situation, Dr. Voss said without preamble. I believe I can help stabilize the affected individuals. I've developed a combination of specialized medications and targeted energy treatments that should balance the hybrid physiological changes. Adam hesitated, aware of Dr. Voss's reputation for pushing ethical boundaries. But as he looked at his suffering team members, he knew they had little choice. Do it, he commanded. We'll send the most critical cases to you first. While Dr. Voss began his work on the research ship, Adam turned his attention to the pressing issue of the destabilizing asteroid field. He gathered a team of engineers and scientists, their faces a mix of drive and exhaustion. We need to modify our remaining shuttles with tractor beam technology, Adam explained, pulling up a holographic display of the asteroid field. We'll use them to nudge the larger asteroids back into stable orbits. The team set to work immediately, cannibalizing damaged shuttles and repurposing equipment from the precursor outpost. Adam watched as they worked with a synchronicity that seemed almost supernatural, their hybrid abilities allowing them to anticipate each other's needs and move with incredible precision. As the modified shuttles launched into the chaotic asteroid field, Adam coordinated their efforts from the outpost control center. He directed the pilots to key points around the field, using the tractor beams to gently guide the massive space rocks back into their proper positions. The work was painstaking and dangerous. More than once, a shuttle narrowly avoided collision with a chunk of debris or a sudden energy burst from the cosmic entity still probing their defenses. But slowly, steadily, the asteroid field began to stabilize. Meanwhile, Dr. Leda had immersed herself in the precursor star maps, her enhanced cognitive abilities allowing her to process vast amounts of data in record time. She burst into the control center, her eyes wide with excitement. "Adam, I found something," she said, quickly pulling up a holographic display. "There are 3 nearby outposts that could provide additional resources and technology to combat the cosmic entity." Adam studied the map, his mind already formulating plans. "Excellent work, Dr. Leda. We need to get this information to Admiral Koros and Ambassador Lyria immediately." As if on cue, the holographic display flickered, and the faces of Admiral Koros and Ambassador Lyria appeared. Adam quickly briefed them on Dr. Leda's discovery. "This could be the breakthrough we need," Admiral Koros said, his voice gruff but hopeful. "We'll begin planning expeditions to these locations immediately." Ambassador Lyria nodded in agreement. "In the meantime, we've made progress on the political front. The interim governing council has been formally established, with representatives from each faction. I've been chosen as the neutral mediator." Adam felt a surge of relief at this news. A unified leadership would be crucial in the face of the challenges ahead. However, his relief was short-lived as Lyria's expression darkened. "There's been a complication," she continued. "The Council's first major decision was to restrict access to the modified stabilizing agent. General Zachor didn't take it well." Before Adam could respond, alarms blared throughout the outpost. On the holographic display, he saw chaos erupting on the research ship's bridge. General Zachor and a group of loyal soldiers were attempting to seize control. "We need to stop them," Adam said, his voice tight with urgency. But even as he spoke, he saw Lyra and her hybrid team spring into action. Moving with inhuman speed and coordination, they quickly subdued the rebels without a single shot fired. As the situation on the research ship was brought under control, Adam's attention was drawn back to the precursor outpost. Nova, still unconscious and connected to the cosmic entity, lay motionless in the makeshift medical bay. Dr. Voss appeared on the holographic display once more, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of concern and scientific curiosity. "I have a proposal," he said, his voice low and intense. "A risky procedure to establish a controlled neural link with Nova. We could use a modified version of the precursor technology to create a bridge between her mind and a volunteer from the research team." Adam felt a chill run down his spine. He knew the dangers such a procedure could pose, but he also understood the potential benefits. Without hesitation, he stepped forward. "I'll do it," he said, his voice steady. "I have the strongest connection with Nova, and my hybrid abilities might give us the best chance of success." As Dr. Voss began preparations for the procedure, integrating precursor technology with human and Rakari medical equipment, Adam couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. He glanced at Nova's still form, then at the shimmering defensive shield visible through the outpost's viewport. The cosmic entity continued its relentless probing, and Adam knew that their defenses, while holding for now, were far from impenetrable. As he was led to the specialized chamber Dr. Voss had prepared, Adam steeled himself for what was to come. Whatever lay waiting in the depths of Nova's mind, whatever secrets the cosmic entity held, he was determined to uncover them. The chamber door sealed behind him with a soft hiss, and Adam felt the cool touch of electrodes being attached to his temples. As the precursor technology hummed to life around him, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. In moments, he would be plunging into the unknown, his mind linked with Nova's and through her, with the vast consciousness of the cosmic entity itself. The procedure began, and Adam felt a sudden, dizzying rush as his consciousness expanded, reaching out across the void to connect with Nova's. As their minds merged, he caught glimpses of impossibly ancient memories, fragments of a civilization that had transcended physical form millions of years ago. The cosmic entities, he realized with a jolt of shock, were not simple destroyers. They were the remnants of something far more complex, far more advanced than anything humanity or the Rakari had ever encountered. As Adam delved deeper into this shared mental space, he knew that the revelations he was about to uncover would change everything. The nature of the conflict, the potential for communication with the entities, perhaps even the future of human and Rakari evolution, it all hung in the balance. And as his consciousness expanded further, touching the fringes of the cosmic entity's vast mind, Adam braced himself for whatever truths awaited him in the depths of this alien intellect. Consciousness expanded further, touching the fringes of the cosmic entity's vast mind. Adam braced himself for whatever truths awaited him in the depths of this alien intelligence. The sensation was overwhelming. Adam felt as if he were simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. His mind stretched across vast cosmic distances. Through Nova's consciousness, he glimpsed fragments of memories older than human civilization, echoes of a reality so alien it defied comprehension. Suddenly, Adam's body convulsed. In the neural link chamber, alarms blared as his vital signs spiked erratically. Dr. Voss's fingers flew across the control panel, his face a mask of concentration. "We're losing them," he shouted to his team. "Increase power to the stabilizers." As the medical team worked feverishly to keep Adam and Nova's physical forms intact, their merged consciousness delved deeper into the cosmic entity's mind. Adam felt a presence, vast and ancient, probing at the edges of his awareness. In the physical world, Dr. Voss made a critical decision. He adjusted the neural link equipment, diverting more power to the connection. The alarms fell silent as Adam and Nova's vital signs stabilized, but the intensity of their mental link increased exponentially. Adam gasped as a flood of information poured into his mind. He saw the cosmic entity not as a singular being, but as a collective consciousness, the remnants of a civilization that had transcended physical form eons ago. They were not destroyers, but transformers, seeking to elevate other species to their level of existence. As Adam and Nova's shared consciousness began to interpret the complex energy patterns of the entity, Dr. Voss leaned in close to the monitoring equipment, his eyes wide with wonder. "They're translating," he murmured. "They're acting as a living Rosetta Stone." Outside the neural link chamber, chaos erupted. The defensive shield around the asteroid field flickered, its power fluctuating dangerously. Lyra, now leading the engineering team, raced to the control center. "We need to reroute power from non-essential systems," she ordered, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. As she worked, she noticed something extraordinary. The hybrid crew members seemed to be instinctively moving towards weak points in the shield, their bodies glowing faintly. "Wait," Lyra said, holding up a hand. "Everyone, focus on the shield. Channel your energy into it." The hybrid crew members closed their eyes, concentrating. To Lyra's amazement, streams of energy flowed from their bodies, merging with the shield and reinforcing it. The power reading stabilized, then strengthened. "It's working," Lyra exclaimed. "We're creating a symbiotic link with the precursor technology." As this breakthrough occurred, the three expedition teams were facing their own challenges. On the desert planet, Dr. Lita and her team had just uncovered the entrance to the hidden precursor outpost when disaster struck. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and a swarm of glittering particles rose from the sand. Before anyone could react, the nanobots attached themselves to the team's equipment and suits. "Don't panic," Dr. Lita shouted, fighting down her own fear. "Everyone, remain still. Let's observe what they're doing." To their astonishment, the nanobots began to reconfigure their technology. Sensors became more sensitive, communications clearer, and their protective suits more resilient. Dr. Lita watched in awe as her handheld scanner's capabilities expanded beyond anything she had seen before. "This is incredible," she breathed. These nanobots are integrating precursor technology with our own. The potential applications are limitless. Meanwhile, in the upper atmosphere of a distant gas giant, Dr. Krell's team found themselves in a precarious situation. Their shuttle, caught in the gravitational field of the floating precursor outpost, careened towards an external platform. "Brace for impact," Dr. Krell yelled, gripping his seat as the shuttle scraped against the platform's surface, sending sparks flying. When the vessel finally came to a stop, the team breathed a collective sigh of relief. As they disembarked, Dr. Krell's attention was drawn to a pulsing light emanating from the outpost core. "Let's get inside," he said, his scientific curiosity overriding his caution. "Whatever's in there, it's still active after all this time." The third team, led by Varric Thorn, faced a different kind of challenge. As their ship docked with the asteroid outpost orbiting a neutron star, a surge of energy coursed through the structure. "Systems failing," the pilot called out as consoles flickered and died around them. Varric gritted his teeth, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to rapidly reroute power. "We're not dead yet," he growled. "Everyone, prepare for emergency protocols. We're going in." Back at the main research site, a new crisis was unfolding. Crew members who had not undergone the hybridization process began reporting strange symptoms. Some found they could lift objects far heavier than before, while others reported heightened senses. In the medical bay, a nurse stared in shock at her hands, which had begun to emit a faint glow. "What's happening to us?" she asked, her voice trembling. The interim governing council convened an emergency meeting to address the spreading hybrid traits. Tensions ran high as they debated their next move. "We need to evacuate immediately," one council member insisted. "We don't know the long-term effects of this exposure." "No," another countered. "This could be the key to our survival against the cosmic entities. We need to study this phenomenon further." As the debate raged on, in a guarded isolation room, General Zaxlor's body underwent a startling transformation. His skin hardened into a metallic sheen, and his eyes began to glow with an inner light. The medical staff watched in a mixture of fear and fascination as the general's body reshaped itself, becoming a hybrid without the use of the stabilizing agent. In the neural link chamber, Adam and Nova's shared consciousness continued to unravel the cosmic entity's communication. They discerned patterns in the energy field, a language of pure thought and intention. Suddenly, Adam's eyes snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly light. "They're not attacking," he gasped, his voice overlaid with Nova's. "They're trying to warn us." Before Dr. Voss could question him further, the defensive shield shimmered, space-time itself seeming to ripple around the asteroid field. The cosmic entity's probing intensified, focusing on the areas reinforced by hybrid energy. As the distortion spread, interfering with communications and sensors, Ambassador Lyria received an urgent transmission. Her face paled as she listened to the report from the Galactic Council. "It's not just here," she announced to the gathered leaders, her voice heavy with the weight of the news. "Similar entities have been detected across multiple sectors. They're moving towards populated systems." The revelation hung in the air, a palpable sense of dread settling over the assembled group. The scope of their mission had just expanded far beyond their asteroid field, beyond even their own galaxy. As the implications of this news sank in, they knew that the challenges they faced were only the beginning. The fate of all sentient life now rested on their ability to understand and communicate with these cosmic entities. And as the precursor outposts yielded their secrets and the hybrid evolution continued to spread, the lines between ally and enemy, between danger and salvation, blurred. In this new reality, the only certainty was change, and the need to adapt or perish in the face of a universe far more complex and interconnected than they had ever imagined. As the implications of Ambassador Lyria's news sank in, the research outpost erupted into a flurry of activity. The cosmic entities' approach towards populated systems added a new level of urgency to their mission. However, before they could fully process this galactic threat, a more immediate crisis demanded their attention. In the neural link chamber, Adam and Nova's connected bodies began to emit pulsating waves of energy. The air crackled with an otherworldly charge as nearby electronic equipment flickered and failed. Dr. Voss's eyes widened as he observed the phenomenon through the observation window. "Containment field now!" he barked at his assistants. They scrambled to erect energy barriers around the chamber, their fingers flying across control panels. As the containment field hummed to life, Dr. Voss noticed something extraordinary. The energy pulses were altering the molecular structure of objects within the chamber. A nearby console warped and twisted, its surface rippling like water. Dormant precursor technology in the room suddenly activated, projecting holographic displays of intricate genetic sequences. "Fascinating," Dr. Voss murmured, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding his concern. He tapped his comm link. "Engineering team, I need a full spectrum analysis of these energy emissions, and someone get me a molecular scanner." Outside the chamber, the hybrid crew members linked to the defensive shield reported strange sensations. Lyra, overseeing the shield operations, noticed their eyes glowing with an inner light. "It's changing," one of them said, voice filled with wonder. "The shield. It's becoming more than just a barrier. We can feel it." Lyra watched in amazement as the shield's energy patterns shifted and swirled, responding to the hybrid crew's thoughts. "You're creating a neural network with the shield," she realized. "This could revolutionize our defensive capabilities." As she worked to analyze this development, Lyra noticed a pattern in the space-time distortions caused by the cosmic entities probing. Her mind raced with possibilities. "If we can harness these distortions," she mused, "we might be able to establish direct communication with the entity." Meanwhile, on the desert planet, Dr. Lita and her team made a breakthrough. They successfully reprogrammed the swarm of nanobots, turning them into efficient excavation tools. The bots swarmed over the buried precursor outpost, clearing away tons of sand in minutes. "Incredible," Dr. Lita breathed as a vast underground laboratory came into view. "Look at this place." The lab was filled with rows upon rows of stasis pods, each containing a hybrid embryo. Dr. Lita approached one, wiping away condensation from its surface. Inside, she saw a developing being that appeared to be a mix of human and an unknown avian species. "These must be precursor experiments," she said, her voice filled with awe. "The genetic possibilities here are staggering." In the upper atmosphere of the gas giant, Dr. Krell's team faced their own set of challenges. As they explored the floating precursor outpost, they activated a series of experimental devices. "Be careful," Dr. Krell warned. "We don't know what these—" His words were cut short as one of the devices hummed to life. Suddenly, gravity reversed. The team found themselves falling upwards, scrambling to grab onto any available surface. "Everyone remain calm," Dr. Krell called out, his body pressed against what was now the ceiling. "This appears to be a localized gravity manipulation field. We need to adapt our movements to navigate this inverted environment." The team slowly began to move, their motions awkward at first but gradually becoming more confident as they adjusted to the altered physics. At the asteroid outpost orbiting the neutron star, Varric Thorne and his team faced a critical situation. The energy surge from the reactivated reactor had destabilized the stasis pods containing various hybrid beings. "We need to stabilize these pods now," Varric shouted over the blaring alarms. "If they all open at once, we'll have chaos on our hands." As the team worked feverishly to stabilize the pods, one malfunctioned. The seal hissed open, and a semi-conscious hybrid tumbled out. It had the general form of a Ricari, but with gills and webbed appendages suggesting an aquatic adaptation. Varric approached the confused being cautiously. "Easy there," he said, holding up his hands in a placating gesture. "You're safe. We're here to help." The hybrid's eyes darted around the room, taking in its surroundings with a mix of fear and curiosity. It opened its mouth to speak, but only a gurgling sound emerged. Back at the main research site, the interim governing council grappled with the rapidly evolving situation. Reports flooded in from all sectors of the outpost, detailing the spontaneous development of hybrid traits among the non-hybrid crew members. "We need to implement quarantine protocols immediately," one council member insisted. We can't risk this spreading to the rest of the fleet. And then what? Another countered. Lock up half our crew? These changes could be the key to our survival against the cosmic entities. As they debated, a commotion arose from the medical bay. General Zachor, his body now a perfect blend of human and Rakari features, had developed powerful telekinetic abilities. Medical staff scrambled to contain him as objects flew around the room, seemingly of their own accord. Get him to the specialized containment unit, the chief medical officer ordered. We need to suppress these energy outputs before he brings down the whole outpost. As chaos reigned within the research site, the long-range sensors picked up a new anomaly. At first, it appeared to be nothing more than a small moon at the edge of the solar system. But as it drew closer, its true nature became apparent. That's no moon, the sensor operator breathed. It's a ship, a massive precursor vessel. The revelation sent shockwaves through the command center. As they watched, the enormous ship began to show signs of activation, its ancient systems coming to life in response to the cosmic entity's presence. Ambassador Lyria, still reeling from the news of multiple cosmic entities approaching populated systems, now faced this new development. She turned to the assembled leaders, her face a mask of grit. We stand at a crossroads, she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. This precursor vessel could be our salvation or our doom. We must approach it carefully, but we cannot ignore its potential. It may hold the key to understanding and communicating with the cosmic entities. As the massive precursor ship drew ever closer, the research team found themselves facing a pivotal decision. The reactivated vessel represented both an unprecedented opportunity and a potential threat of immense proportions. With crises unfolding at every turn, from the evolving hybrid situation to the challenges faced by the expedition teams, they knew that their next move could determine the fate of not just their mission, but potentially all sentient life in the galaxy. The cosmic entities continued their inexorable approach towards populated systems. The precursor vessel loomed large in the viewport, and the combined human and Rakari team stood on the precipice of a new era of discovery and danger. The next few hours would shape the course of history, and every decision carried the weight of countless lives. As the massive precursor vessel loomed ever closer, Admiral Corus's voice cut through the tension on the bridge. Deploy scout ships immediately. We need eyes on that vessel. Within moments, sleek reconnaissance craft streaked away from the research outpost, their sensor arrays primed to gather every scrap of data possible. The bridge crew watched with breathless expectation as the scouts approached the ancient ship, its hull gleaming with an otherworldly sheen. Admiral, incoming transmission from Scout 1, the communications officer announced. The scout's voice crackled over the comms, filled with a mix of awe and trepidation. This is unlike anything we've ever seen. The propulsion system, it's not using any known form of FTL travel. And those weapons, they're off the charts. Our sensors can barely comprehend the energy readings. As the scout ships continued their survey, attention shifted to the neural link chamber. Dr. Voss stood transfixed at the observation window, his eyes wide as he watched Adam and Nova's transformation unfold. Their skin had taken on a soft, pulsating glow, reminiscent of bioluminescent deep-sea creatures. Nova's platinum blonde hair grew at an alarming rate, cascading down her back and curling around her body like living tendrils. Adam's previously close-cropped hair now formed a halo of shimmering strands around his head. Dr. Voss tapped his datapad furiously, recording every observation. Incredible, he murmured. It's as if the cosmic entity's energy is awakening dormant genetic potential. This could rewrite everything we know about human and hybrid physiology. A sudden surge of energy from the chamber caused nearby equipment to spark and fizzle. As the surge subsided, a previously dormant console hummed to life. A holographic display materialized, showing a galactic map dotted with pulsing markers. What in the name of... Dr. Voss began, but his words caught in his throat as he realized what he was seeing. These are hybrid breeding centers. The precursors, their plans were far more extensive than we ever imagined. On the desert planet, Dr. Lita wiped sweat from her brow as she peered into a stasis pod. The hybrid embryo within had visibly grown in the span of mere hours, its features becoming more defined by the minute. "We've done it," she breathed, turning to her team. "We've found a way to accelerate their growth, but we need to be careful. Push too hard and the genetic structure becomes unstable." As if to emphasize her point, alarms blared from a nearby pod. The team rushed over to find the embryo within writhing, its form twisting in unnatural ways. "Shut it down," Dr. Lita shouted. "We're losing it." In the gas giant's floating outpost, Dr. Krell and his team had finally managed to stabilize the gravity-altering device. Now they worked in a lab where up and down were relative concepts, moving with practiced ease in the altered environment. "Pass me that sample," Dr. Krell called out, gesturing to a piece of metal floating nearby. As his assistant complied, Dr. Krell placed the sample into the device's field. The team watched in amazement as the metal compressed, its molecular structure rearranging before their eyes. When Dr. Krell retrieved it, the sample was noticeably smaller, but felt impossibly heavy. "The applications for this technology are staggering," he mused. "Imagine hull plating that could withstand even the most powerful cosmic entity attacks." Back at the asteroid outpost, Varric Thorne approached the newly awakened hybrid cautiously. Her eyes, large and iridescent, darted around the room, taking in every detail. With a flick of her webbed hand, she gathered moisture from the air, forming a swirling sphere of water between her palms. "Easy now," Thorne said softly, holding up his hands in a placating gesture. "We're not here to harm you." The hybrid tilted her head, studying him intently. When she spoke, her voice was a melodious trill that seemed to resonate on multiple frequencies simultaneously. The translation software struggled to keep up, producing fragmented phrases that hinted at concepts beyond current understanding. On the main research ship, chaos erupted as General Zaxlor's telekinetic powers surged beyond the capacity of the containment unit. Alarms blared as objects flew through the air, narrowly missing panicked crew members. "Get him to the core chamber," the security chief bellowed over the din. "Move!" As they struggled to subdue and relocate the general, the hybrid crew members maintaining the defensive shield suddenly stiffened, their eyes glazing over. In their shared vision, they saw vast armadas of sleek ships engaging in battle with writhing masses of cosmic energy. The conflict spanned galaxies, playing out over eons. Ambassador Lyria's face was grim as she received the latest report from the Galactic Council. "Multiple outer rim worlds have gone dark," she informed the gathered leaders. "The cosmic entities are moving faster than we anticipated." As if in response to this dire news, the approaching precursor vessel emitted a pulse of energy that washed over the research ship. Consoles flickered, and the defensive shield wavered momentarily. "That energy signature," one of the engineers exclaimed. "It's compatible with our shield frequency." Admiral Koros didn't hesitate. "Establish a link between our shield and that vessel, now." As the engineering team scrambled to comply, Lyra's earlier theory about space-time distortions bore fruit. A garbled transmission filtered through the comms, its otherworldly tones defying easy translation. "We're receiving something from the cosmic entity," the communications officer announced, his voice filled with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Before anyone could fully process this development, a massive surge of energy erupted from the precursor vessel. The research ship systems overloaded, and for a heart-stopping moment, the defensive shield flickered out of existence. In that instant, a tendril of cosmic energy made contact with the ship's hull. It spread rapidly, a web of glowing filaments that began to reshape the very structure of the vessel. As alarms blared and crew members scrambled to respond to this new crisis, Admiral Koros stood at the center of the bridge, his face set in grit. The precursor vessel loomed ever closer. The cosmic entities continued their inexorable approach, and now their own ship was undergoing an unknown transformation. The Admiral took a deep breath, knowing that their next actions would determine not just the fate of their mission, but potentially the future of all sentient life in the galaxy. Galaxy. The moment stretched, taut with tension, as the cosmic energy made contact with the ship's hull. In an instant, the world around them transformed. The once familiar corridors of the research vessel began to shift and warp, metal flowing like liquid as new passageways and chambers formed. Crew members stumbled as the floor beneath their feet undulated, forcing them to grab onto newly sprouted protrusions for balance. Admiral Koros's voice cut through the chaos, his tone sharp and authoritative. All personnel, evacuate affected areas immediately. Follow hybrid team leaders to designated safe zones. The hybrid crews, their enhanced abilities now proving invaluable, led the way through the shifting landscape of the ship. Their eyes attuned to the subtle changes in energy patterns, guided groups of bewildered human and Rakari crew members to safety. In the neural link chamber, Dr. Voss watched in fascination as the transformation unfolded. His eyes darted between the ship's changing structure and the holographic display of genetic sequences he had observed earlier. "It's not random," he muttered, furiously inputting data into his pad. "The ship's reconfiguration, it's following the same patterns as the hybrid genetic sequences. It's as if the cosmic entity is trying to create a hybrid of the ship itself." His gaze shifted to Adam and Nova, still suspended in their containment suits. Their bodies now emitted a soft, pulsating glow that seemed to resonate with the energy coursing through the ship's hull. Nova's hair, now a mass of shimmering tendrils, moved of its own accord, while Adam's skin had taken on a metallic sheen that reflected the chamber's flickering lights. On the bridge, now a maelstrom of alarms and frantic activity, Admiral Koros made a swift decision. "We're losing control of the outer sections. Establish an emergency command center in the ship's core. Move." As the bridge crew scrambled to relocate, the massive precursor vessel loomed ever closer in the viewports. Suddenly, long tendrils of energy extended from its hull, reaching out towards the transformed sections of the research ship. Where they made contact, networks of pulsing light spread across the surface, forming intricate patterns that seemed to stabilize the chaotic transformation. In the engineering section, Ambassador Lyra and her team worked feverishly to maintain the defensive shield. As the energy network between the two ships solidified, Lyra noticed a sudden surge in their shield strength. "The connection," she gasped, her eyes widening. "It's amplifying our shield capacity exponentially." The enhanced shield expanded rapidly, engulfing both the research vessel and the precursor ship in a shimmering bubble of protection. As the shield stabilized, the interference plaguing the ship's systems began to subside, allowing for partial restoration of normal operations. "Recall the scout ships," Koros ordered from the newly established command center in the ship's core. "Bring them in through whatever those new structures are that look like hangar bays." As the sleek reconnaissance craft maneuvered through the asteroid field towards the transformed ship, the situation on the desert planet reached a critical point. Dr. Lita's voice, tight with tension, crackled over the comms. "We've lost containment on multiple stasis pods," she reported. "The accelerated growth process has triggered a chain reaction. We have partially developed hybrids loose in the facility." The underground complex echoed with the sounds of shattering glass and inhuman cries as Lita's team scrambled to contain the situation. One of the escaped hybrids, its body a strange mix of humanoid and reptilian features, lashed out with a suddenly elongated arm, narrowly missing a researcher's head. "Careful," Lita shouted, ducking under a flying piece of equipment. "They're manifesting abilities as they mature. We need to stabilize them before they hurt themselves or us." Meanwhile, at the gas giant outpost, Dr. Krell's latest experiment with the gravity-altering device yielded unexpected results. As he adjusted the field strength, tendrils of cosmic energy began to coalesce around the device, drawn in by the manipulated gravity. "Fascinating," Krell murmured, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly as he recorded the data. "The altered gravity field seems to attract and concentrate the ambient cosmic energy. This could be the key to developing a weapon against the entities themselves." Back on the asteroid outpost, Varric Thorne made a breakthrough in communicating with the aquatic hybrid. Using a combination of hand gestures and mental impressions, he began to piece together her story. "You're saying your species was created by the precursors?" Thorne asked, his fingers moving in a complex pattern. The hybrid's large iridescent eyes blinked in affirmation. She raised her webbed hands, creating intricate shapes in the air that seemed to represent different environments: deserts, gas giants, deep space. Other guardians, Thorne translated for his team, each adapted to different environments, all created to fight the cosmic entities. As this revelation sank in, the situation on the main research ship took another dramatic turn. General Zachor, his body now a conduit for immense energy, stood at the center of the ship's core. Pulses of power radiated from him, resonating with the transformed structure of the vessel. "Stand down, General," the security chief ordered, his weapon trained on Zachor's glowing form. Zachor's eyes, now pools of swirling energy, fixed on the security team. When he spoke, his voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am beyond your control now. I am one with the ship." With a gesture, Zachor caused holographic interfaces to materialize throughout the chamber, displaying ship systems and vast databases of information. The security team exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that the general now held unprecedented power over the vessel's functions. In the midst of this standoff, Ambassador Lyria's efforts to communicate with the cosmic entity bore fruit. A series of complex mathematical equations flowed across the communications displays, defying easy interpretation. "These aren't just random numbers," one of the analysts exclaimed. "They're coordinates, dozens of them, spread across the galaxy." As the research team began to decode the information, matching the coordinates to known star systems, a new alert sounded from the long-range sensors. A massive fleet of ships had appeared at the edge of detection range, approaching rapidly from the direction of Rakari space. Admiral Koros leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he studied the sensor data. "Those are Rakari and human ships," he said, his voice grave. "A joint military force. But why are they here?" The question hung in the air, adding yet another layer of complexity to their already precarious situation. As the merged precursor and research vessels hung in space, their shields glowing with enhanced power, the crew braced themselves for what was to come. The cosmic entities continued their approach. The mysterious fleet drew nearer, and the future of all sentient life in the galaxy hung in the balance. Balance. The cosmic entities continued their approach. The mysterious fleet drew nearer, and the future of all sentient life in the galaxy hung in the air like a fragile thread. Admiral Koros's voice cut through the tension. "Initiate emergency protocols. All hands to battle stations." The transformed research ship hummed with activity as crew members rushed to their posts. Koros turned to his tactical officer. "Extend our enhanced shield to encompass the nearby precursor outposts. Create a unified defensive perimeter." As the shield expanded, enveloping the asteroid field and the outpost within its protective bubble, the cosmic entity intensified its assault. Tendrils of energy probed the shield's surface, searching for weak points. On the bridge, Ambassador Lyria's eyes widened as she received an incoming transmission. "Admiral, it's from the approaching fleet. They're identifying themselves as a joint Rakari human task force." Koros's brow furrowed. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the stern visage of a human woman in a crisp military uniform. "This is Admiral Helena Reeves of the Joint Galactic Defense Force. We request an immediate meeting to discuss the cosmic entity threat and your recent precursor discoveries." As Koros began formulating a response, alarms blared throughout the ship. In the neural link chamber, Adam and Nova's bodies convulsed within their containment suits. Dr. Voss rushed to the monitoring station, his fingers flying over the controls. "Their connection to the cosmic entity is surging," he called out. "I've never seen readings like this before." Before their eyes, Adam and Nova's skin began to ripple and change. Intricate patterns of bioluminescence spread across their bodies, pulsing in perfect synchronization with the ship's energy fluctuations. In the ship's core, General Zachor stood motionless, his eyes closed in concentration. The security team watched warily as holographic interfaces materialized around him, displaying vast streams of data from the precursor databases. The security chief approached cautiously. "General, we need to establish protocols for your involvement in ship operations. The council..." Zachor's eyes snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly light. "The protocols are irrelevant. I have found something of great importance." On the asteroid outpost, Varric Thorne led his team through a newly discovered chamber. Their flashlights illuminated rows of sleek, alien devices. "These look like weapons," one of his team members whispered. Thorne nodded, his expression grim. "And if I'm right, they're designed specifically to combat energy-based life forms. We need to get this information to engineering immediately." Meanwhile, on the desert planet, Dr. Lita and her team worked frantically to contain the prematurely awakened hybrids. A young woman with scales shimmering across her skin lashed out with a whip-like tongue, narrowly missing a researcher's head. "Easy now," Lita called out, her voice calm despite the chaos. "We're here to help you." Slowly, the hybrids began to calm. As Lita observed their unique adaptations, the way their skin seemed to reflect heat, their eyes perfectly adapted to the harsh desert light, she realized the potential they held. "These beings," she murmured to her assistant, "they could be the key to exploring parts of this facility we've never been able to access before." Back on the main ship, Ambassador Lyria coordinated with the engineering team to reinforce the strange shield. "Redirect power from non-essential systems," she ordered, "and get me our hybrid crew members. We need their abilities to strengthen the shield's integrity." As the hybrid crew members gathered, channeling their unique energies into the shield matrix, the ship suddenly lurched. Admiral Koros steadied himself against a console. "What was that?" he demanded. The navigation officer's eyes widened in surprise. "Sir, it's the precursor vessel. It's activated some kind of propulsion system. We have full maneuverability." Koros's mind raced with the tactical possibilities. "Use it. Reposition us within the asteroid field. Create a defensive formation with the outposts." As the massive, merged structure began to move with unprecedented grace through the asteroid field, Dr. Krell's voice crackled over the comms from the gas giant outpost. "Admiral, we've made a breakthrough with the gravity-altering device," he reported excitedly. "We've incorporated elements of the precursor technology, and we're now able to manipulate the trajectory and density of nearby asteroids." Koros nodded grimly. "Excellent work, Doctor. We may need that capability sooner than we thought." As the ship settled into its new defensive position, with the precursor outpost forming a protective ring around it, Admiral Koros took a deep breath. The approaching Rakari human fleet loomed large on their sensors, while the cosmic entity continued its relentless assault on their shield. "Prepare a secure communication channel," he ordered. "It's time we had a talk with Admiral Reeves." The stage was set for a negotiation that would shape the future of their mission and potentially the future of the cosmos itself. As Koros prepared to face this new challenge, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of something far greater than they had ever imagined. With a deep breath, Admiral Koros opened the secure communication channel to Admiral Reeves' approaching fleet. "Admiral Reeves, this is Admiral Koros. We're prepared to discuss the situation at hand." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing Admiral Reeves' stern countenance. Her eyes narrowed as she took in the transformed research vessel behind Koros. "Admiral Koros, I see the reports of your modifications were not exaggerated," she said, her voice tinged with a mix of awe and suspicion. "We've brought specialized equipment designed to study and potentially neutralize cosmic entities. It's based on data from our previous encounters." Koros leaned forward, his interest piqued. "That could prove invaluable, Admiral. We're dealing with an immediate threat, but there's far more at stake than just our current situation." As they delved into the details of their respective capabilities, alarms blared through the research ship. Dr. Voss's voice cut through the commotion, tight with urgency. "Admiral, we have a critical situation with Adam and Nova. In the neural link chamber, Adam and Nova's bodies convulsed violently, their skin now a canvas of pulsing bioluminescent patterns. Waves of energy radiated from them, causing nearby equipment to spark and malfunction. Dr. Voss and his team sprang into action, their movements precise despite the chaos. "We need to isolate them immediately," he shouted, gesturing to a nearby console. "Activate the precursor containment protocols." A shimmering energy field enveloped Adam and Nova, forming a makeshift isolation chamber. The waves of disruptive energy collided with the field, sending ripples across its surface but no longer interfering with the ship's systems. As the situation on the main ship stabilized, a transmission from the desert planet crackled through. Dr. Lita's face appeared on the screen, her eyes wide with excitement. "Admiral, we've done it. We've reactivated 3 of the mothballed precursor ships," she reported, her voice barely containing her enthusiasm. "And you won't believe this. The desert-adapted hybrids, they're interfacing with the ship's systems like they were born to do it." On the viewer, Chorus watched as one of the hybrids, its scaled skin shimmering in the harsh desert light, placed its hand on a control panel. The ancient ship hummed to life, holographic displays blossoming around the hybrid operator. "Remarkable," Chorus breathed. "Dr. Lita, prep those ships for launch. We may need them sooner than we thought." Another alert chimed, this time from the asteroid outpost. Varric Thorne's face appeared on a secondary display, his expression a mix of excitement and unshakable focus. "Admiral, we've made a breakthrough with the precursor weaponry," he reported. "We've created a prototype capable of disrupting the cosmic entity's energy field. Initial tests show promising results." Before Koros could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Warning klaxons blared as the tactical officer shouted, "Cosmic entity attacking. It's concentrating its energy on a single point where our shield interfaces with the precursor vessel." The view screen showed a blinding beam of energy lancing from the cosmic entity, striking the shield with pinpoint accuracy. For a heart-stopping moment, the shield flickered and failed, creating a brief opening. "Shields down to 60% in that sector," the tactical officer reported. In that moment of crisis, Zara, the aquatic hybrid, sprang into action. Her webbed hands flew over the environmental controls, redirecting coolant throughout the ship's systems with inhuman speed and precision. "Coolant rerouted," she called out, her large eyes fixed on the readouts. "Critical systems stabilized." Ambassador Lyria nodded in approval, her fingers dancing across her own console. "Excellent work, Zara. Engineering team, reroute power to reinforce the compromised section." As the crew worked to stabilize the ship, General Zaxlor stood motionless in the core, his eyes closed in deep concentration. Suddenly, they snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly light. "Admiral," he intoned, his voice resonating with strange harmonics, "I've detected a pattern in the entity's attacks, transmitting data to Dr. Krell's team on the gas giant outpost now." Dr. Krell's voice crackled over the comms moments later. "Received, General. We're calibrating the gravity-altering device now. Stand by." The view screen showed a distortion in space near the cosmic entity as Dr. Krell's team created a localized gravity well. The entity's energy beam wavered, then bent away from the shield, buying precious time for the repairs. As the immediate crisis passed, Ambassador Lyria received an urgent communication from the Galactic Council. Her eyes widened as she processed the information. "Admiral," she called out, her voice tight with concern, "the Council has sent data on the movements of other cosmic entities throughout the galaxy. They're converging on specific points that match locations in the precursor database." Chorus's mind raced with the implications. He turned back to the holographic display where Admiral Reeves waited, her expression grim. "Admiral Reeves, the situation has escalated beyond our immediate encounter," Chorus said, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "I propose we convene an emergency meeting to discuss our next steps. The fate of humanity and all alien species may well depend on what we decide here today." As the two fleets prepared for this crucial meeting, the cosmic entity loomed in the viewport, a stark reminder of the immense challenge that lay ahead. The crew of the transformed research vessel stood ready, their persistence strengthened by their recent victories, but acutely aware that the true test was yet to come. The weight of their responsibility settled heavily on Admiral Chorus's shoulders as he turned to face the assembled leaders. "Admirals, doctors, team leads," he began, his voice firm and resolute. "We stand at a crossroads of galactic significance. Our next actions will determine not just the fate of our mission, but potentially the future of all known species." Admiral Reeves nodded, her expression grave. "I concur, Admiral Chorus. We must act swiftly and decisively." As if on cue, the ship's systems came to life with a surge of energy. Holographic displays materialized around them, showcasing the full extent of their combined resources. We've successfully integrated our fleet systems with your research vessel, Admiral Reeves explained, gesturing to the intricate web of data before them. This will serve as our central command hub. Dr. Voss's voice crackled over the comms, interrupting the briefing. Admirals, you need to see this immediately. The group hurried to the isolation chamber, where Adam and Nova floated within the containment field. The bioluminescent patterns on their skin had intensified, projecting into the air around them. As they watched, the light coalesced into a breathtaking three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Incredible, Dr. Voss breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. They're mapping the locations of the cosmic entities and dormant precursor stations. Glowing points of light pulsed across the galactic map, each representing a cosmic entity or precursor station. The implications were staggering. Admiral Koros turned to the assembled team. This changes everything. We need to mobilize immediately. Over the next few hours, the combined human Rakari fleet buzzed with activity. Engineering teams led by Lyra and Dr. Krell worked tirelessly to integrate Admiral Reeves' specialized equipment with the precursor systems. In the engine room, Lyra wiped sweat from her brow as she made final adjustments to a power coupling. Careful with that energy modulator, she called out to a nearby technician. We can't afford any. Her warning came too late. A burst of energy surged through the system, causing lights to flicker and non-essential systems to shut down across the ship. Status report! Admiral Koros's voice boomed over the comms. Minor setback, Admiral, Lyra responded, her fingers flying over a control panel. We're rerouting power now. The integration process is more complex than anticipated. On the asteroid outpost, Varric Thorn oversaw the mass production of the prototype energy weapons. The cavernous manufacturing bay hummed with activity as fabricators worked at maximum capacity. Increase power to Fabricator 3, Thorn ordered, his eyes scanning readouts. We need to maintain optimal efficiency. As he adjusted the settings, a sudden realization struck him. With a few quick calculations, he modified the weapon's energy output. This could be a game changer, he muttered, initiating a test sequence. The weapon fired, its energy beam shifting from a destructive blast to a containment field. Non-lethal options. That's what we needed. Meanwhile, on the desert planet, Dr. Lita stood before 5 stasis pods, each containing a newly awakened hybrid. These beings, born from the accelerated growth of carefully selected embryos, represented a new frontier in their understanding of precursor technology. One of the hybrids, a female with iridescent scales and large luminous eyes, placed her hand on a nearby console. Instantly, the precursor ship's systems sprang to life, responding to her touch as if it were an extension of her own body. Remarkable, Dr. Lita whispered, furiously taking notes. Their ability to interface with the technology is beyond anything we've seen before. As the preparations continued, the cosmic entity launched another assault on their defenses. This time, it split into multiple tendrils, each targeting a different section of the shield. Shields at 80% and dropping, a tactical officer shouted, his voice strained. In the midst of the chaos, Zara, the aquatic hybrid, sprang into action. Her webbed hands danced across the environmental controls, reconfiguring the ship's external systems. Initiating countermeasure protocol Hydra 1, she announced, her voice calm despite the tension. Suddenly, high-pressure water jets erupted from the ship's exterior, creating a swirling barrier that disrupted the cosmic entity's energy patterns. The unexpected defense bought precious time for the shield generators to recover. General Zaxler, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light, interfaced directly with the ship's systems. Admiral, he called out, his voice resonating with strange harmonics, I've identified a vulnerability in the entity's attack pattern. If we target these coordinates with concentrated energy bursts, we may be able to force it to withdraw. Admiral Koros nodded, quickly relaying orders to the weapons teams. The transformed research vessel moved with surprising agility, outmaneuvering the entity's tendrils and striking at its weak points. As the immediate threat subsided, Ambassador Lyria received another urgent communication from the Galactic Council. Her expression grew grave as she processed the information. Admirals, she said, turning to Koros and Reeves, we have a new complication. Several outer rim worlds are experiencing unexplained phenomena. mutations in local flora and fauna that bear striking similarities to our hybrid adaptations. The implications hung heavily in the air. Whatever was happening, its effects were spreading far beyond their immediate vicinity. Dr. Lita's voice cut through the tension, her excitement palpable even over the comms. Admirals, we've made a breakthrough with the precursor ship's propulsion systems. We can create localized wormholes for near-instantaneous travel. Admiral Chorus and Admiral Reeves exchanged glances, the weight of their next decision apparent in their expressions. It's time, Admiral Chorus said firmly. We need to divide our forces and act on multiple fronts simultaneously. They quickly outlined their plan. One group to maintain the defense against the immediate cosmic entity threat, others to travel to and reactivate the precursor space stations, and a special team to investigate the phenomena on the outer rim worlds. As the various teams prepared for their missions, a palpable sense of anticipation filled the air. Human, Rakari, and hybrid crew members worked side by side, their differences fading in the face of their shared purpose. The newly born human Rakari precursor hybrids took their positions, their unique abilities promising to be the key to unlocking the mysteries that lay ahead. As the first team prepared to enter the localized wormhole, Admiral Chorus addressed the assembled crews one last time. What we do here today will echo through the ages. Every one of you is vital to this mission's success. Now let's make history. With a brilliant flash of energy, the wormhole opened and the first ship disappeared into its swirling depths. The galaxy-spanning operation had begun, and with it, a new chapter in the story of life in the cosmos. Universe. As the first team vanished into the swirling depths of the wormhole, a sudden alarm blared through the ship's corridors. Dr. Voss's voice crackled over the comms, his tone urgent and strained. Admiral Chorus, we have a situation in the isolation chamber. Adam and Nova, they're changing. Chorus sprinted toward the medical bay, his heart pounding. As he approached, he saw crew members being evacuated from the surrounding area. Emergency containment fields shimmered into place, sealing off the section. Inside the isolation chamber, a mesmerizing yet terrifying sight unfolded. Adam and Nova's bodies pulsed with intense bioluminescence, their forms barely visible within a swirling vortex of energy. The vortex expanded rapidly, tendrils of light lashing against the chamber walls. Dr. Voss and his team worked feverishly at the controls, their faces bathed in the eerie glow. We're attempting to stabilize the energy field using modified precursor tech, Voss shouted over the din, but it's not responding as expected. The vortex continued to grow, threatening to breach the chamber's containment. Chorus felt the deck plates vibrate beneath his feet as the ship's systems strained to contain the surging power. Meanwhile, on the desert planet, Dr. Lita's voice cut through the chaos, her words filled with disbelief and a hint of fear. Admiral, the hybrids, they've activated the precursor ships. We can't stop the launch sequence. Through the planet's atmosphere, 5 sleek vessels rose, their hulls gleaming with activated precursor technology. Inside each ship, a newly awakened hybrid interfaced directly with the ancient systems, their eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and confusion as they struggled to control the immense power at their fingertips. Dr. Lita's team scrambled to regain control, but the ships accelerated, breaking free from the planet's gravity well. They're on a pre-programmed course, Lita reported, her voice tight with tension, heading towards the nearest dormant precursor station. Admiral Chorus's mind raced, processing the rapidly unfolding crises. He turned to Admiral Reeves, who nodded grimly in understanding. Varric, Chorus called out, activating a secure channel to the asteroid outpost. We need you to intercept those precursor ships. Guide them safely to their destination if you can, but be prepared for anything. Understood, Admiral, Thorne replied, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. We're already prepping for launch. Those new non-lethal containment weapons might come in handy. As Thorne's team mobilized, the cosmic entity attacking the defensive shield suddenly shifted its assault. Its energy tendrils retracted, coalescing into a dense, pulsating sphere. The change was as beautiful as it was terrifying. Gravitational distortions detected, shouted the tactical officer, his fingers flying over the controls. shield integrity compromised in multiple sectors. General Zaxler, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light, interfaced directly with the ship's systems. "I'm detecting a pattern in the gravitational waves," he intoned, his voice resonating with strange harmonics. "Transmitting data to Dr. Krell now." On the gas giant outpost, Dr. Krell received the information, quickly inputting the data into the gravity-altering device. "Initiating counter-resonance field," he announced, his voice strained with concentration. The device hummed to life, projecting a field that partially neutralized the cosmic entity's gravitational attack. For a moment it seemed to work, but then alarms blared across the outpost. "The device is overheating," Dr. Krell shouted, his words nearly drowned out by the sound of groaning metal. "We can't maintain this level of output." As the situation grew dire, Zara sprang into action. Her large eyes narrowed in concentration as she reached out with her hydrokinetic abilities. Water storage tanks throughout the ship emptied, the liquid coalescing into a massive, shimmering barrier around the research vessel and nearby outposts. "Aqueous shield deployed," Zara announced, her webbed hands moving in intricate patterns as she manipulated the water. "It's refracting and dispersing the entity's energy attacks, but I don't know how long I can maintain it." Ambassador Lyria's console lit up with an incoming transmission. Her eyes widened as she processed the information. "Admiral," she called out, her voice tight with concern, "I'm receiving reports from the outer rim. The mutations we detected earlier. They're accelerating. Some life forms are exhibiting abilities similar to our hybrid crew members." Before Koros could respond, a blinding flash erupted from the isolation chamber. The ship's sensors overloaded, plunging the nearby sections into momentary darkness. As emergency power kicked in and systems rebooted, Dr. Voss's shocked voice came over the comms. "Admiral, you need to see this," he said, his words barely above a whisper. Koros rushed to the chamber, pushing through the gathering crowd of medical staff. What he saw inside left him speechless. Where Adam and Nova had been, a single form now floated in suspended animation. Their bodies had merged, seamlessly blended with precursor technology. Pulses of cosmic energy rippled across their new shared form. "By all that's holy," Dr. Voss breathed, his eyes fixed on the monitors displaying a cascade of data. "This changes everything we thought we knew about human-hybrid cosmic entity interactions." As news of the transformation spread, reports flooded in from across the fleet. Human and Rakari crew members experienced sudden intensifications of their hybrid traits. Engineers found themselves intuitively understanding complex precursor systems. Navigators reported heightened spatial awareness that bordered on prescience. Admiral Koros stood at the center of the storm, taking in the flood of information. The rogue precursor ships were streaking towards an unknown destination. The cosmic entity continued its relentless assault. Mutations spread across the outer rim worlds. And at the heart of it all, the mystery of Adam and Nova's transformation held the potential to reshape their understanding of the entire mission. As alarms blared and crew members rushed to their stations, Koros knew that the next few hours would determine not just the fate of their mission, but potentially the future of multiple species across the galaxy. With a deep breath, he turned to face the challenges ahead, knowing that every decision from this point on would echo through the cosmos. Ages. With a determined nod, Admiral Koros turned to issue his next set of orders when an urgent transmission interrupted him. "Admiral," Dr. Lita's voice crackled through the comm system, her words rushed and breathless. "We have a situation at the Alien Breeding Center. You need to see this immediately." Koros exchanged a quick glance with Admiral Reeves before responding. "On my way, Doctor. Reeves, maintain our defensive position here." As Koros hurried to the shuttle bay, reports flooded in from the breeding center. The facility was in chaos, overwhelmed by an unprecedented surge in egg-laying among all alien species housed there. The timing couldn't have been worse, but Koros knew they couldn't ignore this development. Upon arriving at the breeding center, Koros was met with a scene of utter pandemonium. Eggs of every conceivable size, color, and texture filled the halls and chambers. Alien mothers, their bodies heaving with exhaustion, huddled in corners, while human staff members darted between them, struggling to manage the overwhelming influx of eggs. Dr. Lita waved Koros over to a hastily assembled research station. Her eyes were wide with a mixture of excitement and disbelief as she gestured to the screens displaying a cascade of data. "Admiral, you won't believe this," she said, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. "The surge in egg-laying seems to be directly linked to increased human-alien interactions, specifically the kisses we've been studying." Koros leaned in, studying the complex genetic sequences displayed on the screen. "How is that possible?" Dr. Lita shook her head, equally baffled. "We're still working that out, but preliminary data suggests the human-alien kisses have triggered a symbiotic reaction, activating dormant genetic sequences in alien physiology. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." As they spoke, a nearby Zygonian female let out a low, keening cry. In a matter of seconds, she laid a clutch of iridescent eggs, each one pulsing with an inner light. A human researcher rushed to collect them, carefully placing them in an incubation chamber. "We're running tests on both the aliens and the newly laid egg," Dr. Lita continued, gesturing to a bank of analysis equipment. "But here's the truly remarkable thing, Admiral. The embryos in these eggs, they're not pure Zygonian. They're hybrids, perfectly adapted to survive in diverse environments." Koros's mind raced with the implications. Could these new hybrids help us against the cosmic entity threat? Before Dr. Lita could respond, another transmission cut through the air. It was Varric Thorn, his voice tight with tension. "Admiral, we've intercepted the rogue precursor ships," Thorn reported. "The hybrid pilots were unstable, but we managed to establish a mental link. We're guiding them to the nearest dormant precursor space station now." Koros nodded, though Thorn couldn't see him. "Good work, Varric. Keep me updated on any developments." As Koros turned back to Dr. Lita, he saw a spark of inspiration in her eyes. "Admiral," she said, her voice low and intense, "I have an idea. It's bold, perhaps even reckless, but it might be our best chance." She quickly outlined her plan. Use the rapidly growing hybrid population to crew the reactivated precursor space stations, creating a galaxy-wide network of defense against the cosmic entities. Koros considered the proposal, weighing the risks against the potential benefits. After a moment, he nodded. "Do it, Doctor. Coordinate with Admiral Reeves to begin transporting the eggs to the stations immediately." As Dr. Lita's team sprang into action, Koros couldn't help but marvel at the sight before him. In the midst of cosmic chaos and existential threats, life found a way to not only persist, but thrive and evolve. The breeding center, once a simple research facility, had become the crucible of humanity's future among the stars. With a deep breath, Koros activated his comlink. There was still much to be done, and the fate of multiple species hung in the balance. As he began issuing orders for the implementation of Dr. Lita's plan, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something truly monumental. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the heart of that change. The air in the breeding center hummed with possibility as eggs were carefully packed for transport. Each one represented a new chapter in the story of life in the cosmos, a story that was nowhere near the end.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.